Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate trying to force myself to like games that I just don't like.
And my name is Kyle, and today I hate my car.
So the car situation,
Uh-huh.
that's something that needs to be expressed on the podcast.
Yeah.
You had some, let's call them car troubles.
We almost didn't make it to an episode 55.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Think about if the Shea Hates podcast only ever made it to episode 54.
Right.
I crashed my car. My wife and I were on the way to a financial planning meeting, which is ironic. And it had been raining, and it stopped raining, like, in the middle of the drive, and there's a road I wasn't familiar with. I was following her, and she was driving our new car. I'm driving my crummy old one. Well, it's not crummy, but it's falling apart. There was a turn in the road, and I was going the speed limit. I was going 40 in a 40, and then it recommended 35 miles per hour when you slow down. So I was slowing down. I hit the brakes. I feel like I probably got to somewhere around 35, but I just hydroplaned hardcore on the curve. I just started like fishtailing. I was trying to countersteer, and it just was not working at all. And so I go off the road, narrowly missing a fire hydrant. And so, like, this fire hydrant has one of those large posts next to it. So I take out the post, which is how close I was to the fire hydrant. And if I had T-boned that thing, it would have been the driver's side door, and it would have, like, crumpled right onto me, which that would have really sucked. So, luckily that didn't happen. And then, so the way the road is structured, it's a curve, and before and after the curve, there are trees, like, right next to the road. And then on the curve, on my side of the road, there's a hill. So the trees kind of sweep out and away from the road and up and over the hill, and then kind of go back closer to the road, that's literally precisely the path that my car took. So if the trees didn't go up the hill, they just continued to line the road, I would have been in the trees and, like, hitting a trunk or something. So I was trying to countersteer, it wasn't working. I went off the road. I went up the hill, which was really steep, and it tore my bumper off. My front bumper, and then I spun and did a full 360 in the wet grass, and then came back out onto the road going the right way. It's like it sounds like infantile to put it in these terms, but it felt like in a video game when you spin out and you wind up going the same direction with all your momentum. And, like, you're just like, that was lucky, that was awesome. I feel like a stunt driver.
Slightly less awesome when it's real life.
Yeah, I didn't feel like a stunt driver, but it's cool when I tell the story to be able to say that.
Yeah.
In the moment, so all my friends were like, were you scared, whatever. In the moment, my wife was terrified because she saw it happening in the rearview mirror, and, like, she was freaking out. But me, my cynical ass reaction in the moment was, this is gonna cost me a lot of fucking money. While it was happening, that was my reaction. And so what I do, I grip the steering wheel really hard, I brace for impact, and I just go, God damn it. That was my whole reaction. No, like, oh shit, or oh no, it's like, God damn it.
That is not dissimilar to when I broke my hand playing Destiny, ironically enough. And I was playing the multiplayer, and I just got really pissed off because some dude with a shotgun kept, like, spawn killing me, and it was bullshit. And so I went to punch the pillow on my couch, and instead punched through the pillow into the arm of the couch, which is solid wood, and my hand shattered. And the initial reaction was not, oh, fuck, I broke my hand, this hurts. It was, oh, fuck, this is going to be expensive. That was my exact reaction. Because I didn't have health insurance at the time, and I wasn't working, so that was a big panic mode, for sure. Yeah.
So, you know, like, something I feel like people with means take for granted is the ability to put other things besides money first. So, like, it is so, like, part and parcel with my daily who I am life that in the moment of my possible demise, that's all I can think about is money. Which is really something. So, our father, who Art on Earth. He's coming over today to help me kind of fix the car. I brought it into a body shop, and what they wanted to do to like replace the whole like front end stuff, they wanted like $1,400, which no. So I bought the parts online that I believe I need, and he's coming over today, and we're gonna work on it and see if we can't get it drivable, because it's drivable still. I need to get the suspension checked because I had suspension problems to begin with, but and I'm sure that did not help going off road like that at high speed. So I need to get that checked, but really the most of it, like the turn signal assembly, is just gone. I couldn't find it. It's just gone, the passenger side turn signal. And then my whole front bumper cover came off, but I recovered it, and I have since Gorilla Glued it and duct taped it together. And so I did that last night, so I'm going to go take the duct tape off and see if the Gorilla Glue held.
Nice.
Because I was able to fit it back on. The actual bumper reinforcement, which is the metal bumper, that is a little bent. I can get a new one of those if I have to, but it would just be like an extra $60 that I don't want to spend. So I'm going to try and just get the bumper cover back on the existing bumper. Problem is, the way it's bent, it might keep me from putting in the new turn signal assembly properly. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I only had to spend like $110 so far on stuff, as opposed to $1,400. So
well, yeah, assuming that you can fix it, then that is much cheaper.
Also,
if it doesn't work, then...
yeah. I'm also not putting the fog lights back in, because that was gonna be like an extra $150 just to put the fog lights in, and I've never used the fog lights. I've only ever used my brights, and I've owned the car for like 9 years. So I was like, why spend the $150 on something I won't use? And so I'm not going to be reselling this car anymore.
Sure.
It'll be just sold for scrap, basically, at the time, or maybe traded in for like a couple $100 when I go to buy a new car in a couple years, hopefully. Would like to get another couple of years out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my eventful week. I was trying to get out of a bunch of chores and stuff around the house by telling my wife I almost died recently, but that only worked for like a day.
Right.
Yeah.
When you are fine, it is hard to, like, if you would have gotten hurt, then great.
I should have.
That would have been like, yeah, that would have been kind of optimal outcome, is like just like a light injury. You know?
Right.
Not like breaking your leg or anything, but like bumps and bruises or a strained neck or something, where you can wear one of those little like foam neck braces things.
Yeah.
That would have been optimal outcome of that accident.
Right. I don't know. I feel like currently this was optimal outcome.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. But they cited me for failure to control, $140 ticket.
That is so
all right,
insane to me.
I don't have an issue with paying the money because I knocked out one of their posts. Like, someone's got to pay for the post, right? So you got to charge me something. The failure to control part is bullshit.
Yeah. Right.
Because, so, my tie rod on my car was broken, and I got it fixed, like, half a year ago. And my car has never handled the same since I got it fixed, because when they, quote-unquote, fixed it, smear quotes, the tops of my tires lean in now. And so my tires are bowed permanently. They said that was the best they could do, is what the guy told me. I was like, all right, here's the money. Thanks. And my car's never handled the same. Like, all through the winter, I was slipping and sliding in a way that I have not been in the past. So I think because the tires are bowed in a little bit like that, I have significantly reduced traction on the road and am more likely to slip and slide, so to speak. So I just need to be more cognizant of that and take it a little slower in inclement weather. And yeah. But, like, because I've been driving my car for 9 years, I know how it handles. It should have been fine on that turn. It just was not at all. So
yeah,
it didn't feel like it should have fishtailed like that and hydroplaned. So, but whatever. Yeah, I'm fine. Gonna hopefully fix that today. We'll see.
Good. Yeah, my car dies randomly when I'm driving.
Oh. And
I think a lot of it's because of the heat, but it's idling really rough, and it'll like kind of spike in RPMs, and it'll get down to like 500-600 at rest. Yeah, and it's not good. I brought it into my mechanic, and he was like, after it died the first time, I brought it into him the next day, because it started right back up. And I brought it into him the next day, and he was like, I looked at the computer that tracks all the issues, and there wasn't anything there. Shrug. And I was like, okay,
thanks,
what?
dude.
So I brought it to a different mechanic that was recommended by my father-in-law, but they don't like do a lot of that kind of stuff. It's mostly like oil changes and tire rotations and stuff. They don't do a lot of the more hardcore stuff. But so it was their like super expert technician that looked at it, and they had it for like a day. And he called me, and it was like, I explained that my mechanic that I always take my car to, he didn't find anything, but it's a German car, and he doesn't specialize in German cars, and this guy was supposed to be better about that. He's like, yeah, Volkswagens have issues with X and Y and Z. It doesn't seem like any of those is what's causing the problem. I'm really sorry. I don't know what it is. He didn't charge me, which was nice of him because he took all the time. But he was like, if it dies again, bring it in. Like, don't start it. Get it towed here. And I'm like, okay, my problem is, like, I work over an hour away.
Right.
I'm not going to get my car towed, like, at 6 p.m. and then, like, I won't have a car the next day. Like, that won't really work for me. And since then, this was probably a month ago, it's died, like, 5 or 6 more times on the way home. Just, like, when I'm sitting, like, because there's a lot of traffic, obviously, when I'm driving home. And I'm sitting at a red light or in traffic just idling. And it'll just, like, the RPMs will kind of spike and then it sputters out and dies.
That's not good.
No, it's not good at all. But I don't know what to do about it anymore because I've taken it to 2 places and they have no idea what the problem is. And so I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? So it hasn't died.
Is there a VW dealership near you or anywhere close by?
I'm sure there is. I'm just very against taking it to a place like that because I know they're gonna fuck me.
Well, yeah, they're expensive, but they might be some of the only people that would know the actual cause of it.
Yeah, maybe. But it hasn't died in the last, like, week and a half. So I'm hoping that it was a minor thing that will go away. I feel like that's probably wishful thinking.
That's never... The problems with cars don't just go away. Unless the problem is a clunk and the going away is because it fell off.
But that's how I'm going to treat it, and then maybe it'll be true. If you don't think about a problem, it goes away.
Yeah,
that's how that works.
Schrodinger's problems.
Yeah. So yeah, car problems. They're super fun. But I mentioned how I hate trying to force myself to like games I don't like, and then I mentioned how I broke my hand playing Destiny.
Yeah.
I've been playing Destiny too.
Oh, no.
I picked it back up. I bought the annual pass during the, like, E3 sale, I think, and then hadn't touched it. And there was just a random day where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let me put this in my PS4. Let's just see. And I've played it twice since then, so I'm like still playing it, but I'm not having that much fun doing it. When I loaded back in, I was so overwhelmed with stuff because, like, the last time I had played it was after Forsaken came out. You and I were playing through the single player or the story mode, and we got probably 2/3 through it, and then just totally fell off. And so I hadn't experienced any of the Forsaken endgame, nor any of the new shit, like all the annual pass stuff, the Black Armory, blah, 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 like all the new endgame crap they've done. So once I loaded it up, it was like menu screen of like 6 months worth of new content that I hadn't seen, which was kind of annoying and very overwhelming. I feel like there was a better way for them to do that. But I was like, okay, the first thing I need to do is just finish Forsaken. So I finished that. It's pretty mediocre. To be fair, I kind of lost the thread. Like, I was like, yeah, I know Cade 6 was dead, and I'm chasing down the bad Awoken dude, but that's kind of all I knew. And then the final boss, you fight this big spaghetti monster looking thing that floats.
Okay.
And it was pretty stupid. And then, so that ended. And then I went back to the tower, and a bunch of new menu screens of like, hey, talk to Zavala, talk to Akora, talk to all these other people to get new quests and shit. So I did all that, and then I realized that there were too many quests for me to try to do, and the little quest menu screen is not helpful. Because it's like, hey, here the quest is like Awoken Whisper, and then the description of the quest is complete the Whisper. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. So let me track that quest and see if it gives me like a planet I need to go to or an area. It doesn't. So then I Googled it, and it's the quest that I was looking at was that like secret hidden quest to get that Whisper sniper rifle.
Oh,
that was a big thing when we were playing in Destiny 2.
It only pops up during like public events or something.
And so I was like wasting my time running around IO trying to find the Whisper, and it was this thing. So I'm like, okay, well I'm not going to do that because I need a fire team, blah blah blah. So then I just played some strikes, and I got like really quick because I was like 400 light or something in Forsaken, and it really quick bumped me up to 500. And then I was getting drops of 690 gear, which I think is the soft level cap right now.
Oh, okay.
But I couldn't use them because it requires level 50.
Gotcha.
And I was only like level 47. So I just did some strikes and dicked around until I got to level 50, which I did. I was doing this yesterday for a bit. And so I got to level 50, and now I can use my 690 gear. And so I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of other 690 drops. But like I've been doing quests and doing like things that apparently are very old because they're dropping like 373 gear. And I'm like, okay, so I just wasted my time doing this quest. I feel like that whenever they release a big new thing that expands the light level, they should update the old stuff to still give you new light level gear. Like, there's literally no reason for me to have done that quest then.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it makes me feel like I've wasted my time. But I'm very overwhelmed with the different things I can do. It is not clear at all what I am supposed to be doing for the vast majority of things. Because I am not 690 yet, or 600 even, I think I'm like 520 because I have a couple things of 690 gear. I'm coming across random enemies in the wild that are like 630 light level, and so they kill me in one hit, which is also not fun, because I'm just like trying to explore, and I'm trying to play the game, and then a random dude one-shots me, and so I can't go to that area anymore. So it's not very returning player friendly at the moment.
Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of service-based games.
Yeah, I think that Shadowkeep will probably fix that, because I'm sure in the beginning of that, it'll automatically update you. Like, it'll automatically give you all the shit you need to catch up light level-wise. And so I'm like, I'm jumping in probably at the wrong time. But, yeah. I've also been having a lot of technical issues, which is not okay for a game that's been out for this long. That is a live service game. Just menus take forever every single time. Way worse than it ever used to be. Huh. Like when I press pause, it takes 5-6 seconds for my inventory to pop up. And then when I try to change the screen, it takes 2 to 3 seconds for that screen to load. When I try to go to the director, it takes sometimes like 10 seconds for the big map to load. And because you can't pause it, that matters.
Yeah.
Especially like if I'm in the middle of a strike and I want to change out my new gun in a fight, I cannot do that because I will die before my inventory screen populates.
Right.
That's ridiculous. It never used to be a problem.
PC Master Race.
Loading times are insanely bad. Those have always been really, really bad. It takes minutes. Like each time I've loaded up the game, it takes minutes of sitting at the like main screen loading whatever, and it's not downloading anything. It's just loading up the game. Minutes. And I know like this is very first world problems thing to complain about. Like this is how advanced we are in video games.
Very limited time in which to play games now.
But it's also like other games don't have this problem. And if other games don't have this problem, this game should also not have this problem. Like with the power of our current technology, several minute long loading screens is completely unacceptable nowadays. So yeah, not really having that much the strikes, they were fun. I played one of the strikes that was new, I guess, and it was pretty cool. It was like multi-dimensional, mostly fighting taken enemies. There was like a witch that we fought that we were actually trying to save, but it really just like you just beat her and then you save her. There was no like special mechanic around not doing damage to her or anything, which would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
But it was a fun new quest. And then I played the one from Forsaken with the big worm, which is a bad strike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably play it a little bit more, but I'm not planning on getting Shadowkeep. I'll see what the reaction is, and it's going to be tough because I know you are not interested in picking it back up on PlayStation because you will now get it on Stadia.
Yeah, I'll have it for free on so
that's like
free.
without having anyone to play it with. And I have a guy I work with that's hardcore into Destiny, and he's like trying to get me into it. And he's like, hey, we'll run you through raids, we'll do whatever to get you caught up, blah blah blah. But it's just my personality. I'm not looking to get a group of a bunch of dudes I don't know and hang out with them regularly.
Well, you can play it with me on Stadia.
I thought it only played with other Stadia people.
Well, right, but like with my founders thing, I get like a free 3-month pass I can give to someone for Stadia Pro. So
right.
You and I would both have Destiny for 3 months. You just wouldn't have the controller. You'd have like your Xbox controller or your PS4 controller plugged into your PC and just playing it through the browser.
Maybe. We shall see. I don't know that I'm interested in starting a new character. Taking that on as well.
You can import. They said you're able to do a one-time character import into Stadia. They said they're not sure if you'll be able to export out of Stadia or not, but you can import existing characters into Stadia.
Oh, I gotcha. It's not like cross-save.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, but I also don't know if then you would lose that character on PS4 or if it's just kind of copying the profile info.
Yeah, I would think I wouldn't think it's going to delete your character, but the progression won't carry over. So like if I import my character and do a bunch of shit in Stadia, I will not have done that on my PS4 character, which that takes away a lot of the point. Yeah. I don't know. More than likely, I will stop playing Destiny 2 by the time we do the next podcast. Yep. So probably all moot. Beyond that, I've been continuing to play little bits of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and I am discovering as I get farther in that game that I'm not good at 2D Mario games anymore, because I'm like struggling on a lot of levels. Just like the mechanics and particularly the platforming side of it, I just don't have a feel for it the way that I did when I was a kid, because it's been years and years since I've played a 2D Mario game. And I'm sucking at it, and it is frustrating. I feel like I'm not able to execute like the childhood version of Shea was able to execute.
Yeah.
But that game's still super cute.
Through playing Mario Maker, I've gotten like some of those chops back.
Right.
But
I'm sure if I was devoting more time, like more consistent time, it would be better. But like I'm playing a level once a week, basically. And so that's like, I'm not going to get any skills back by playing it that infrequently. So that's kind of all I've been playing. Just some diving back into Destiny 2 in the very short term. I fell off Skyrim for some reason, like super hard.
It happens.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll find my way back to it.
Skyrim ebbs and flows.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I mentioned in the last podcast that I picked up They Are Billions, but I hadn't played it yet. I have since started that game, and I've played quite a bit of it. I'm playing the campaign, because the big draw of that game is just like the free sandbox mode, where you have access to all of the upgrade tiers of everything, and you are just put onto this map, and you have to build it up and survive for as long as you can against the different infected hordes. The campaign is like very light on story, but it basically has an overworld map that you're working your way through. So you, at any given time, you have a few different options of missions to do. And they even have some like hero quote unquote based missions. There are basically 3 types of missions on in the campaign. There's the basic setup where you only have access to, because as you complete levels you get this currency, and you can spend the currency on an upgrade map to unlock new and better improvements for stuff, which you can then use in the levels going forward. So there are the basic maps that are like that, where you start with a command center and a few troops, and you just kind of have to build from there, and you have some sort of objective you have to get. Maybe its colony has to be 800 people, or you just have to defeat all of the infected in the area, or you need a gold production of 2,000, stuff like that. So the different objectives, and the maps are kind of built around accomplishing those objectives in fun ways. So there's those, and then there's hero missions, where at the start of the campaign you pick a hero you want to play as, and during those missions you're just the hero, and you're going through like some facility trying to find an artifact or something, and that's like, so it's just you against groups of infected. Sometimes you find allied troops there that you can join forces with, and face them off as a group, but it's a little more like Diablo-esque dungeon crawly, which is like a nice break from the regular maps. And then there's a third type, which is in between the levels. Sometimes there are hordes that you have to get rid of. So you'll have like a outpost tower, and then through completing missions, you're unlocking like extra troops. Like, it's really a currency. So you can, let's say at the start of the campaign, I beat one level, and then there's a horde, and I only have 200 of this currency. Well, 200 of that currency is probably not enough to buy me enough troops to beat the horde, so I go play some other levels, and I come back with 800 currency. Now I can buy more troops and more defenses to fight this horde.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like a pool that is always increasing in size, which the hordes are always also increasing in size as you get further into the campaign. So you're kind of like, I'm always like saving those for last, because the more missions I complete, the more troops and stuff I can place, the more room for error that I have to not lose. I have not lost a map yet. I've probably played somewhere in the vein of like 13 missions between the three types. But yeah, I think it's really, really good. It's an RTS. It's one of those where you are picking stuff and placing things and upgrading them later, and everything needs certain types of resources that you're getting from the environment. It's my favorite part of Age of Empires, which is like building up your base, making a huge army, and then sending that army out. That was always my favorite part of Age of Empires, and that's what pretty much this game is almost entirely. But it's really exhausting, because you just start with that command center, and you're like having to slowly expand because you need more space, and then it's like, oh, well, I need to expand this direction to get this kind of a resource so that I can make walls, so that I can reinforce for the horde that's coming in a few days, and then after that horde comes, then I can expand in this direction. And it's just like, it's a game of inches. Like you're gaining inches slowly over the course of time, and it is exhausting. It's a lot of fun, but it really wears me down. I can only play like a map or two at a time, and then I'm like, I gotta step away, because that was really stressful. Because I mean, like, you never really know where the hordes are gonna come from. Like, they'll give you like 12 hours beforehand. They'll say a horde coming from the north. Well, could come from a couple different places in the north. I'm not entirely sure which way the horde's gonna break on the geometry of the map. So I just kind of have to like try and reinforce all these different areas. And sometimes like a horde will come from the north, but also some will come from other directions. So you don't want to leave all your stuff exposed, sending all your troops up north. So it's really, there's a lot to think about with that game. But like I said, I haven't lost yet. I'm playing on easy because I've heard that game is extremely hard. And there have been times where like they almost got through a wall. Like, they broke through my last defense, and it's just my group of guys, like, firing arrows at them, and they just managed to kill them before they were overrun. That's happened a couple times, so I'm glad I'm playing on easy, because, like, the maps also take, like, an hour sometimes, an hour and a half to play the whole map. So it's like, if you were to lose... like losing an hour and a half of like, yes, you learned a lot about the map and like where they're gonna come from and stuff, but
that's a big time commitment to have not gained anything.
Right. Nothing like tangible. So yeah,
is that PC only?
They're working on a console port. I think it's not out yet though. But I think they announced that it's supposed to be coming to console. Is that true? They are Billions. Console. Yes, there's a teaser for the PS4 version on June 6th. It said it was supposed to come to PS4 this July. So is it out now?
Because I'm not, like, that style of game is not super my jam, but it's mostly just because I've never spent a lot of time with one. But I've heard really good things about it from a lot of folks. So I'd at least be curious in checking it out.
Yeah, they just said it was supposed to come in July. I'm not seeing a date.
And it hasn't.
Wait, they are Billions on PS4. official PlayStation Store. It is available. Yeah, it came out July 9th.
Nice.
Yeah, it is 25 Daru.
Cool.
So
people can go check that out.
Yeah. I also, so my friend and I, we played Return of the Obra Dinn together.
Yes.
So we like playing games that are inherently like single player, just like next to each other, kind of trying to figure it out, like a puzzle-like games. And we kind of heard that Outer Wilds was similar. So Outer Wilds was free on the Epic Store for a little bit, so I had picked it up then, and I just had it on my computer waiting to start it. And so he came over one day and we played quite a bit of it. That game is fascinating. There's a lot of really weird, crazy stuff going on. Basically, what seems like is happening is mild spoilers for Outer Wilds. What seems like is happening, like, we played for about 25 minutes, and then, like, the screen went black, and then we, like, woke back up at the beginning of the game. I was like, what the heck happened? And then it happened again, like, another 25 minutes later. And then we're like, okay, we got to figure out, like, why, like, is the universe exploding or something? And we're, like, going back in time? Like, what's happening? So we got in our spaceship, and, like, we looked at this. I noticed that there was this comet that was coming through on the galaxy map. I was like, I wonder if we should, like, follow that comet and see what happens. Sure enough, that thing flies into the sun, and the sun goes supernova and destroys the entire, like, galaxy. So, we are, like, kind of trying to figure out, like, there's all this mystery of this race that came before, and they're, like, you have this thing that can translate their text, which is, like, a new invention for your people. And you're kind of flying to all these little bite-sized worlds around this galaxy, and just kind of unlocking new mysteries and stuff. Like, I found like an alien space station that was orbiting a planet that was like a deep space probe launcher, and like figuring out how their tech works. Like, I found this tablet on the floor. I could put the tablet in this like thing that had like a wall next to it, and like this text would start to appear on the wall, and I could translate it and read it. But I could also take that thing and put it in this pedestal in the middle of like this empty pool on the floor, and then the pool like filled with this weird like mercury stuff, and then I was seeing another area. And like, so it took me Cody and I a while to kind of figure out, okay, like what's actually going on here. Like, what am I seeing? How are these, like, tied to these other areas? How do you actually, like, translate and read this text and all this other stuff? So, it really, really fascinating. And, like, every world is so different. Like, there's one world that's entirely water, there are little floating islands, but there are tornadoes that will come and they'll grab the island and toss it up into the atmosphere, and then the island will drop back down. So if you're on the island when it happens, like, you're at the mercy of like wherever this island goes, and you could get tossed wherever, and like sometimes your ship gets tossed, and then you have to like try and find your ship again, stuff like that. And like there's just every planet has a big mystery. Like that planet, like, there's this alien, there's an island that moves around the planet really fast, and it's part of an alien installation, and it was one of the ones that I saw through this, like, looking glass mirror pool thing. And I finally found my way onto it, and, like, explored it, and got, like, a few more answers, but really just more questions. And then, like, the tornado tossed us up, and so like in atmosphere, because it was 0G for like 10 seconds before it plummeted back down again, I like managed to just get into my ship and then take off from my ship as the thing fell so my ship wouldn't crash. And then like I went down into the water, and there's only so far I could go, and there's like this like almost bubble of water that's like a strong current that's like keeping us from going any further into the planet's core. But I found a tablet in another planet that was showing me inside of that bubble, and it's like an installation. So like I want to get there somehow. I got to figure out how to get through that barrier somehow. There's just like there's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it seems very open-ended.
Yeah, oh, it's completely open. But the game has some ways, like we found. So there's a big mechanic in the game about quantum stuff. How it's there when you're observing it, and then like if you look away, it's now in a different place. So, like, there are some puzzles around that. But while we were watching the comet fly into the sun, we saw, like, I saw this, like, moon that was, like, mostly black. Just, like, the tiniest little, like, moonlight shine on it that was orbiting around a planet. And I was like, that's not showing up on the galaxy map. Like, I tried to look up what that moon was, and it didn't show up anywhere on the map. And then when I closed the map, it was gone. And I was like, wait, is this a thing? Like, I have to keep this thing in view? And you have, like, a camera that you can use. So, like, that's one of the puzzle things, is you take a picture of something, so it's always in view. And then even if you look away from it, since you can still see it in the picture, it's still there. So, like, we took a picture of the planet. And then... like, or this orbiting thing, and like flew into it, and it was fucking wild, and there's all this crazy stuff. But it was like, hey, there are like this mural on the wall, and only one of the murals has been drawn on. The other two have not been drawn on yet. I'm like, oh, we found this early. Like, we're supposed to go do these other things in these other locations and then find this thing again, which sounds like it'll be a real pain in the ass since we can't see it most of the time. So just really, really fascinating stuff.
And so it resets like every 25 minutes.
Yeah. But like, it's super quick to just hop back in your spaceship and kind of fly to the next location. I did run into a situation where Cody and I were almost all of the way through one of these installations, and it ended. And then we had to, like, it was really hard. It was in that water planet. There's a giant cyclone that you can't fly through. So I figured out you have to, like, go up into the atmosphere and then go down into it. But from the atmosphere, you can't see what's going on the planet because it's all clouds. So I, like, kind of had to really kind of, like, guess, and I just barely made it in. But there was this big spire in there that you had to, like, climb, and it's where it teaches you all the quantum stuff, where it kind of tutorializes it for you. And we were, like, part of the way through it when it ended, so I had to, like, find it again and get in there and go through all the levels again and then finally make it all the way through. But, yeah, it's a very interesting setup.
It seems awesome. Like, it has
really cool.
It has legit Game of the Year buzz around it, and it bums me out that it's only on PC and Xbox One. But it is. I think it's free on Game Pass on Xbox, so... Yeah. I have considered buying an Xbox so that I can get Game Pass and play this game.
It's like they found just enough systems to have it. Like, it's not too little, not too many, enough to keep you engaged, and enough that you feel like you have a handle on everything, in a way that isn't, like, distracting you from solving the mysteries, but is still making the gameplay interesting. So, yeah, that was very good while we were playing it. We're not done with it yet, right? But I feel like we're getting pretty close.
Cool.
And I picked up Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yes,
a couple days ago, and have been playing that. That game really surprised me in its structure. I didn't expect it to be formatted the way it was. I thought it was like a linear co-op romp, like going through a story, but it's completely open. Like, you start and it kind of railroads you a little bit, but then you have a hub base and, like, you're launching different missions. Like, you're going to different areas to do different missions. So, which is good and bad. It's good in that you kind of really end up learning the areas, and it gives you multiple chances to, like, look for all the hidden stuff, because the game's packed with, like, hidden things. And the way it's the way the upgrades are set up, like, you loot silver coins from the environment and then can upgrade your weapons with those coins, and then you're leveling up your character and spending skill points, increasing, like, powers and other abilities and stuff. So by revisiting areas, you're able to find a lot more of the hidden crates, and some of the crates are hidden behind, like, it's very Metroid-y, where they're like, hey, you need, like, this type of a weapon to open this crate or this door, or, like, you need this ability to crash through here, and you picked the stealth ability, so you don't have it at the start. So there's some Metroid-like aspects to the game where you're returning to areas and, like, oh, right, yeah, there was that crate here, and you're picking up floppy disks that you're decoding at these terminals that also are giving you, like, hints on where things are, so you can like look back in your journal and be like, oh right, yeah, I haven't gotten that one yet and that one. But it's still not ideal, the way that what they give you to track that stuff, but it's fine. But there are a lot of missions that, like, there's a ton of side missions too, which as a completionist I'm trying to play all the side missions. But then and like they also have missions tiered for, like, it's like your level, like basically you at the mission screen you're like, oh, this is level 20 level, I'm only level 12, I can't do that yet. So the missions that you can do don't have a level displayed. The missions that you're already leveled for, which now is like every mission, because I'm like level 28 or 29 now. So like I guess that's just a way of, in the early game, kind of gating you, or like just to show you how certain things scale in difficulty, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot to do, and it's a lot of returning to the same areas to get to a new part of that area, which, now that I've been playing it for like 9 hours, is really wearing thin. Like, I don't want to have to run through the same areas populated with the same enemies again. I just take me to the new stuff. So like that's a little frustrating. I wish I could just, like, their areas aren't massive, but sometimes, like, where it spawns you in a particular section of the city is like a solid 3 minutes away from where you want to be, and on that 3-minute trek it's possible to like get into an altercation with a group of enemies, the alarm goes off, and then they just like keep coming and keep coming, and like that sucks, and it is annoying. And yeah, you get XP for killing the Nazis, and you get coins for killing the Nazis, but it's like, that's what I'm going to do when I get to the new place. Like, I know I'm just there to kill more Nazis, so it's like I'm okay with not killing them on the way. Like,
right.
But I don't know. As you level up your stealth, like, you get better stealth abilities and stuff. So maybe I'll feel a little better once I hit, I think it's level 30, I can unlock the final stealth ability, which is, because you have a cloak, basically, where you turn invisible, and it only lasts for a few seconds, and it has to recharge. And then your first upgrade is, hey, it lasts a little longer. And then the second one, or no, the first one is, hey, you can, like, now jump and sprint and do all this movement without losing cloak. And then the second one is, it lasts a little longer. And then the third one is, if you stop moving while you're cloaked, it will recharge. So you won't ever have to, like, leave cloak if you're only moving a certain amount at a time. So I'm excited about that, because then I'll be able to get through areas without having to fight people. Because I'm sick of fighting, like, the same groups of enemies in the same areas over and over again.
Yes, definitely.
So that's the next big upgrade that I'm looking forward to. But it's also, it is a game of, it feels like there are two very separate tones that exist in the game, which I guess is true of the other Wolfenstein stuff. Like, it's very, it has moments where it's very self-serious, and then it's like, I don't know, like, shooting a Nazi so that their blood, like, makes a pattern on the wall. And in this one, it kind of leans more heavily into the latter. Like, every time you take an elevator, there's a camera feed of the elevator, and it kind of, like, pulls back and shows the two sisters, and, like, they're doing some weird, like, stupid kid messing with each other thing. Like, one time they're doing the, like, the over under the hand slap thing, and then the other one is, like, she's, like, mimicking her sister, and so that, like, really annoys her, and they start, like, pushing each other and stuff. And so it's like, it's this really funny, like, they're murdering the hell out of these people, and then they get in an elevator and they're, like, acting like 12-year-olds. Which is kind of funny. And, like, the first time they kill a Nazi is in a cutscene, and that's a hell of a moment. They do some really funny stuff. Because, like, they're... Basically, the setup for the game is that BJ's missing.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell anyone where he was going because he's BJ. And so his daughters take it upon themselves to go find their father. And so that's kind of like what you're doing, is, like, discovering... You find this room in his attic where he has this pin board with all this stuff up. And you're like, this is where he went. We got to find this mysterious Lab X. And so you're on a journey to figure out what this Lab X is. And then I have a feeling that where it ends is going to be a pretty good indicator of what Wolfenstein 3 is going to have in store. I think Mecha Hitler, because we have not had Mecha Hitler yet.
Yeah,
we had Giant Robot, but it wasn't Mecha Hitler. And now, like, Hitler's dead as of the end of the second one, so I'm thinking Hitler's brain in a robot, Mecha Hitler. I'm thinking that's what Lab X is bringing back the Führer.
Makes sense.
The Fury Führer.
That's something that people were clamoring for in Wolfenstein 2, just because it's such an iconic thing from the original games that they have to do some sort of take on that eventually.
Yeah, I think they were withholding it. I think the end of Youngblood is going to be some kind of a tease for Mecha Hitler.
Sure. Yeah. That would make sense.
But yeah, that's most of what I've been playing. Minecraft,
so what about,
like mod packs and stuff, but whatever.
What about the co-op in Youngblood? Have you done any of that?
No, I've just been playing by myself.
But it always has the AI companion?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And, I mean, she reses me most of the time. There were a couple times where I went down and she just kept shooting enemies. And I was like, hey, come on. No, get me. Yeah. And she was just, like, shooting away. But you have...
No, I'm good.
You have 3 lives that you can, like, find crates and get a life back. So, like, you can always travel back to the hub, the catacombs, and get another life back. So it's really not that big a deal.
Is there any difference between the two characters?
Not mechanically. It's more just like attitude, I guess. But yeah, and there's all sorts of cosmetic stuff you can do too, like different types of, like different colors of suits, different helmets for the suits, skins on weapons, and there's all that kind of stuff. So that I think you're also unlocking with the silver coins. But yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds like for folks that have enjoyed the other Wolfenstein games, this is worth checking out. I fell off pretty hard on the first Wolfenstein and haven't ever... Like, I think on a sale, I bought the first Wolfenstein and the Old Blood.
Yeah.
Was that the little DLC thing?
Yeah, that was the zombie.
And then I might even own Wolfenstein 2 from a sale. Okay. That I was just like, yeah, sure, it was like $10.
New order.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. But I don't know. I enjoyed the first game up until you got to the time where you're like escorting the car through all the checkpoints.
Okay.
And something about that, just like the structure of it, I got really bored and then just stopped playing it.
Huh.
But I enjoyed the shooting of it. Was obviously super solid, and I know the story goes in really crazy places that I would like to see.
It's really rewarding to stick with it. Yeah, they do some really fun stuff with those characters. Of which, like, I haven't seen really many returning characters. There's kind of, like, in the initial cutscene, like, Grace is there. But, yeah, there hasn't been, like, a lot of returning characters. It's mostly new people for the most part. Yeah, so it's kind of all the video games I played. But then I played board games.
Okay.
My wife and I are still playing Gloomhaven. And so, Gloomhaven has so many pieces that it would take us roughly 25-30 minutes just to set up. Wow. And then it would take like an extra 10 minutes to set up for an encounter. And like my buddy bought the game, and Gloomhaven's not cheap. And he bought it for us to play. So I only felt that it was fair that we got the Broken Token organizer for Gloomhaven, which, for those of you who don't know, if you're into tabletop games, you should definitely look at the Broken Token organizers for some games that have a lot of bits and pieces. They are constructed out of like laser cut wood, and it's just thin enough that you can still like pop out from like sheets. So it's like you're popping out those cardboard tiles from board games, but it's wood, and then it all kind of fits together, and it makes these neat little organizers that fit in your game boxes. So we got the one for Gloomhaven, which also has room for all the expansion stuff, which we don't have yet, but it has room for everything, and it is amazing the way they pack it full of stuff. It took me 3 hours to put the organizer together. It took a very long time, but it was well worth it, because like everything actually fits inside the box. Because like what comes in Gloomhaven, like the box, like there's a space for all the character tuck boxes, and there's a space for like a few of the cards, but you have to put all the cards together. Like you can't separate them out, and then you have to take time separating them out later. And then with the tokens, you just have to dump the tokens in the box. There's damage tokens, there's status effect tokens, there's like environmental like trap tokens, and like chairs and desks and tables and pillars and altars and walls and all this stuff. And then there's the actual tiles for the maps that are really big tiles. So like this game has a ton of pieces. And they just do not give you anything to organize them in the base box. So this was really critical, because now like we just open the box, and then I take out the tray of all the status effect and damage tokens, and I put it next to the board, and now we can draw from that during the game, and like they're all in nice neat little cubbies. Like we have character trays that have all of our like our minifigures, our little character tokens, our character sheets, our character board, all the stuff you would possibly need, all your cards are in these little trays, and they fit perfectly. Yeah, it's crazy. And like, so as you're going through Gloomhaven, you're unlocking like at different prosperity levels of Gloomhaven, because it's a city in the game, you unlock new items that you can buy in the shop. And like in the Broken Token Organizer, there are separate things for the different prosperity level items, so you don't have to look in the manual and go, oh, we need this item through this item, find the deck of items, go through the whole deck, find those items, pull them out, and then put them into your like purchasable items deck. Yeah. Like the thing has it separated out. So it's like, oh, we're at prosperity level 3, so I'm just going to take this group of cards and add it to this group of cards. Now we have those. Boom, done. Just a lot of quality of life stuff that they clearly thought about quite a bit beforehand. Like they clearly played the game a lot and determined a lot of the problem areas that you'd be encountering in terms of organization. So highly recommend it. It was expensive. It was like $95.
Well, it sounds pretty robust.
Yes. And everything fit together really well in a way that surprised me. So my wife and I also bought the Betrayal Broken Token Organizer, because that has a lot of tokens as well. And tiles, because you're like building out the mansion as you go, drawing tiles. And so it actually has a cool little tower that looks like the house where you draw the tiles from, which is neat. So they do like a lot of like really custom stuff per game to kind of like get some of the personality and flavor in as well, right? Which is neat. So yeah, their stuff is not cheap, but it's worth it.
It sounds like it helps justify the high price tag to make it like, because it is so uniquely geared to that game and it's themed on that game.
Yeah,
it makes it feel a little bit more special versus just like, here's a box to put all your cards and shit in.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like you could buy an organizer and like make it work, but like this is like everything,
especially for that game,
like Tetrised perfectly to fit inside the game box that you have already.
That's cool.
Yeah, really neat.
Sweet. So TV and movie stuff. So still watching Venture Brothers. I finished season 3, which is when Brock quits and Henchman 24 dies. And I remember season 4 is when it starts to feel weird, because like the characters change a lot and like just the dynamics of the show change a lot. And that's I didn't fall off the show. I just kind of stopped watching it because I didn't have access to Adult Swim anymore. But like that's when the show started feeling different, and like I didn't like it as much. So I'm curious to see going forward, like if my feelings have changed a little bit given time and kind of marathoning through. But there are some really fun storylines, like when Brock is working with, it's not the OSI, it's like a new group that is trying to take down the guild or whatever, and so he's like working with all the G.I. Joe fake characters.
Okay.
Just a lot of funny shit like that. Yeah, so I'm excited to continue watching that. Still watching Smallville, so I am now like a third of the way through season 4. The end of season 3 is fucking bonkers. So if you remember when I talked about the end of season 1 as being like, oh, you know, Lex is deciding whether or not to let his dad die as their house is collapsing from this tornado, and meanwhile Lana gets sucked up into this tornado, and you just see Clark run into it, and that's how season 1 ends, and it was nuts. Season 3 is very similar. So a couple episodes before the end of season 3, Pete, who is Clark's like best friend who knows Clark's secret, he leaves the show. He's like, hey, I'm out, deuces. And I don't know what the backstory is. I think the actor just like wanted out. And so that was kind of a weird exit because it was really abrupt.
Yeah.
But so he leaves, and then meanwhile, Chloe, who is Clark's other best friend, who's like the female reporter person, and she's like super sarcastic and funny, she is getting ready to testify against Lex's dad because when he was a kid, he had his parents murdered so he could collect their insurance money. It's just nuts. So she's getting ready to testify against him. And Lionel, who's the dad, is currently in jail preparing for that case. And she goes into witness protection, and you see her house, the house that her and her dad walks into, explodes. And so you're like, okay, so Chloe just fucking died. Meanwhile, Lex is in, Lionel is in prison awaiting his trial, and he gets stabbed from a dude who was hired to stab him, and so he's bleeding out on the floor in the showers. And then also Lex is like, because he's, you know, partially behind the whole pushing against Lionel because they always butt heads. He's drinking some whiskey and then he like falls to the ground because he's been poisoned. So he's like dying on the floor. Like,
so they're just like,
everything.
Something like, bad has to happen to everybody.
Yes. And then there's a big moment between Lana, who is the love interest, and Clark, because they've kind of been on and off. There was a will they won't they for a while, then they dated for a while. She broke up with Clark because he kept lying to her because obviously he's not going to be honest about his secret, and she decides to move to Paris. And so when you're watching it, you're like, well, she's off the show now because she's on a bus going to the airport to move to Paris. And then Clark, there's a big thing happening with Clark's dad and Jor-El, who's Clark's biological father,
right,
who is dead, but his like his sort of like consciousness has been put into these tiles and stuff where he's talked to Clark, he's talked to Jonathan Kent in the past, and Clark was under the influence of red kryptonite early in, I think at the beginning of season 3, and he had like moved to Metropolis and he was being like a bad dude and like he was like robbing banks and shit under the influence of this red kryptonite, which takes away all of his inhibitions. And so Clark's dad made a deal with Jor-El to say, hey, if you give me the power to bring Clark back, I'll work with you. I'll give you what you want, which is to teach Clark his true destiny to like rule the earth. And clearly, like, Jonathan Kent's not going to do that, but he's like, I need to get my son back. I'm going to make a deal with the proverbial devil.
Right.
So that stuff starts to manifest itself back because Jor-El is trying to get Jonathan to do what he's supposed to do, and Jonathan isn't. So Jonathan has like a heart attack or a stroke or something, so he's been in the hospital. And meanwhile, then Clark gets abducted by Jor-El and like sucked into some alternate reality, which is how his story ends in season 3, where he like disappears. And then Clark's dad goes into a coma. And that's the end of season 3.
How do you not watch season 4 after that, though?
Say what?
How do you not watch season 4 after that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's partially what was so disappointing then, because they undo everything. Like, obviously, Chloe didn't die in the explosion. They knew about it ahead of time, and so Lex had her in a safe room underneath the house before it exploded, so she survived.
Okay.
Lex, he did end up getting saved by someone, and they brought him to the hospital, and they gave him the antidote. And then, like, Clark, he just appears randomly from, I don't know if it's like the Phantom Zone or where he goes with Jor-El, but he just like appears, and his mom kind of gets it because he has amnesia, and so he kind of gets his memory back, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, Lionel survives the stabbing. Like, they undo a lot of this stuff. But still, like, that last episode of season 3, I'm just watching it like, holy shit, everything is breaking. Like, all of this is terrible. But it was a really fun finale. And then the biggest thing about season 4 is they introduced Lois Lane, played by Erica Durance, who is awesome on this show. It just breathed such new life into the show because she is a good actress. And, like, not everybody on the show is terrible. Obviously, Tom Welling, who plays Clark, is not great. And Michael Rosenbaum, who plays Lex, he's very good. But just a lot of the writing is really bad and corny. But she brings this, like, jubilant attitude and, like, just a sense of fun to the show that it had been missing through most of season 3. Because season 3 got really in the weeds about Clark's biological father and, like, all of his Kryptonian stuff. And it lost a lot of the charm that it had had. And so season 4 is bringing a lot of that back. Like, they're doing a little bit more of the Freak of the Week storylines with Lois on the show, it just has like new life to it, which is really awesome. They also brought in Jensen Ackles, who is in Supernatural. He's one of the brothers.
Oh.
He's the short blonde hair brother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He plays Lana's new boyfriend, who is basically the same character as her boyfriend in season 1, who goes to war and gets murdered, which is really fucked up. And there's a whole story, I don't think I ever talked about that, but so he goes to war, dies, and then there's a storyline where he comes back, and you're like, wait, so he didn't die? Like, he was missing in action and then confirmed KIA, but then he comes back, and you're like, holy shit, he's alive again. And so him and Lana are back together, and then you find out that it's actually this character who's a shapeshifter, who's secretly, like, she wants to be Lana, because she was earlier on in the show where she, like, wanted to be best friends, and she shapeshifted into other people to try to always be close to Lana, where she comes back and had shapeshifted into Lana's dead boyfriend, which is so dark. But anyway, so yeah, all the Freak of the Week stuff is back, which is awesome. They are also introducing characters that are superpowered, but not because of kryptonite. So that was the big thing previously, is all of the villains, like the Freak of the Week, were all created from kryptonite in Smallville. And now they're expanding the universe to introduce characters that have powers that are not because of kryptonite. So, like, the Flash is in an episode, which they bring him back later on when Clark kind of forms his Justice League. They also introduced Mr. Mxyzptlk, who is a classic Superman villain, who in the comics, he's from a different dimension. He's like this little tiny dude that, like, has magic powers. And of course, in the show, he's like a handsome Russian exchange student because it's a CW show.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty stupid. But
it'd be funny if he was a handsome Russian dude that was very small.
Right. At least they could have some tie-in.
Yeah.
But, like, his name, I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Mxyzptlk or whatever. And, like, it's very, very stupid how they manipulated the character. So yeah, like, the show kind of has new life to it. There's still a lot of the larger mystery about Clark's background, and a lot of that's not as interesting just because it's, like, they're taking their time with it too much. And they just, like, randomly bring it up whenever they want. Like, there's a big storyline where when Lana's in Paris, she, like, gets possessed by this old witch from, like, the 18th century. And then it just, like, is, like, that storyline goes nowhere for, like, 7 episodes. And then in the 8th episode, all of a sudden, the witch takes over her body now. And it's just like, why did she wait? What was happening with Lana in the meantime? Like, a lot of that is lazy plotting throughout the season. And that's just... It's just because the show's not that high quality, but yeah, I'm very glad for the presence of Lois, because I was definitely fading on it. Like, I wasn't super excited to be watching it, but with her on the show, it's much more fun. She did leave, like, she was a guest star for first 5 or 6 episodes, and then she was gone, and she came back for 1 episode. So I'm sure I think they bring her in every once in a while, and then once Clark moves to Metropolis in a couple of seasons, she's a series regular. But
okay,
yeah, so I'm kind of reinvigorated on Smallville right now.
That's good.
And then we watched all of Stranger Things 3, so we can actually talk about this shit.
Hey, cool.
So here's my thing, and I found this pretty early, like in the first half of of the first episode of season 3. Okay, so season 1, they played with different horror genres, right? Like, season 1 was very alien. There was this mysterious monster that you needed to avoid. You were trying to learn more about how you fight it, and that was kind of the genre that season 1 played in. Season 2 was more aliens, where the mystery of the lab was gone, like the mystery of this foundation was gone, and it was a little bit more action-y.
Yeah.
As well as layering on, like, poltergeist, psychological horror type stuff with the possession of will.
Right.
Season 3 is more of the, like, 80s, like, Gremlins, sort of slapstick gross-out horror movies.
Yeah.
And I love that they play in all these genres, don't get me wrong. My issue with season 3 is that moving to season 2, those genres still were similar enough to what they had done in season 1 that it still felt like the same show, just slightly altered. Season 3 feels like a completely different show.
It does.
It is so over the top and slapstick and jokey, and like Hopper is like the comedic relief in season 3, which one doesn't make sense because he's such a self-serious character, but also I love David Harbour, however you say his last name. He's not that great on the comedic side. Like he had so many bits in the season that do not play, so I just think the execution was also poor. But it just like the show felt wrong to me, and it felt so corny, and it took away a lot of the tension in a lot of scenes because they kept undercutting it with constant jokes. So I don't know. I need some time, and having marathon seasons 1 and 2 right before watching season 3, I still think overall I enjoyed the ride of season 3 more than season 2, which I found to be very disappointing.
Yeah.
But it was not like, it certainly does not capture the magic of season 1 and like how amazing that season was. So I don't know, I can't help but feel a little disappointed in the direction that they went. Layered on top of that, it was so obvious. Every single major plot turn was so unbelievably obvious. Like, literally in the first episode, I figured out that the Russians were behind the mall, that was where they were trying to do the, like, reopening the gate, that the mayor was working with them. Like, I figured that all out in the first episode. And I was like, okay, either it's a red herring, and they're subverting my expectations, and it's going to be a big twist where this isn't true, or they don't care that it's obvious because that's the genre. Like, the mystery doesn't need to exist because it's more about fun horror. And I think it was supposed to be more of the latter, like it's more the mystery doesn't need to exist, but I feel like they did a bad job conveying that because there are several moments where they have reveals that they take seriously that were really obvious. Like, I think it's in the second episode, the big Russian dude, you see him walking out, or you see a guy with a motorcycle helmet walking out of the mayor's office.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's the big Russian dude. And it seemed unbelievably obvious.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well then they know that the audience knows, and it doesn't really matter. But then the episode ends with like a slow pan where you see the helmet, and then it reveals his face of like oh, it was this guy. He's here now. And I was like, wait. So they thought this was gonna be a reveal? Like, it's so obvious. So I just feel like they kind of tried to have their cake and eat it too a little bit with that kind of stuff, where like the reveals they took seriously when they should have not taken seriously. So that, I don't know, I a lot of it I found disappointing, and the over the top nature didn't work for me in a lot of ways. I will say the storyline with Steve and Robin and Dustin and Lucas's little sister, where they're trying to like figure out all the shit in the mall, that storyline I loved. And a lot of it's because I love Steve and I love Dustin and I love those two together. Right. And I really liked the Robin character too.
Yeah,
but that was so Goonies. Like that, it's sort of sense of adventure. So, yes. Like we have to infiltrate this hidden thing and figure out all the secrets and avoid the traps. And we have a map and we have to plan it out. Like it was very, very Goonies. And I loved that ride of it. Again, they tried to have their cake and eat it too. Like when Steve and Robin are captured and like are being tortured, they try to like oh shit, this is so fucked up, but then they also have a lot of jokes and them making, like when they're on drugs and they're making fun of it, but they're also being tortured, and those two things, just like the drama and the comedy, don't really gel well together for me.
Sure.
So I don't know. Now that we can go into the spoiler side of it, did you have any different feelings than I did? Because you could only talk super vaguely last time we talked about it.
Right. No, I feel like I'm probably with you on most of that. I didn't expect Robin to be a bisexual. That was a surprise.
Yeah, that was too.
That was a
I
twist.
liked that moment. Yeah.
I
don't even. She's not bi. I think she's gay.
Oh, I thought like she also liked Steve, but also liked this other girl.
I think it was more that like she liked Steve like as a friend.
Oh,
or like
okay.
she has love for him like a friend. At least that was my interpretation. Was that she's gay.
You might be right. But I wasn't expecting that. They did a good job of masking that. I thought she was just like low key into Steve.
Right.
But yeah, and that was kind of the most surprising thing, really. I don't know. Like a lot of the body horror stuff was a little weird. Like
yeah,
the like melting into flesh pile stuff. And then, like, the fact that it could do that really raises, like, it inserts a lot of plot holes in, like,
I agree.
Hey, this thing could have gotten into this and done this and this and this. And, like, it really, like, the ability, like, because at the one point it kind of goes through that, like, grate in the door to get at what's-her-face in the hospital.
Yeah.
And, like, that means it could go under or around all these other doors that it just flat out doesn't later.
Right.
So I don't know how I feel about that, but
yeah, though I will say they always played fast and loose with Eleven's powers.
Yeah.
And in season 2 with what the possession of will really meant. And so, like, they continued to do that. Like, the Mind Flayer continued to, like, have whatever powers it needed to do the thing it needed to do. And 11, like, going into, it's not the Upside Down, but that, like, black, wet area that she always goes to in her mind. She could always do, like, whatever she needed to do in that area, like whether or not she could interact with someone. When she touched the Demogorgon, like, what that actually meant. Did that open the like, all of that was very unexplained intentionally because they're playing fast and loose. So I agree with you that, like, the inconsistencies can be frustrating, but that part of that's just kind of the show.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
It's that, like, they're not going to explain it because that's not really what matters. Like, just go along for the ride.
Yeah.
I will say, to backtrack a little bit about how the comedy really kind of undercut a lot of the drama, and it did broadly, but there were still several moments where I was, like, on the edge of my seat, like when they trap Billy in the sauna.
Yeah.
And, like, Eleven's fighting him, and, like, you know, like, she's gonna lose.
Yeah.
And, like, that moment, I was like, holy fuck, this is so intense. When the meat monster is chasing Nancy and Jonathan through the hospital, I was like, holy shit, like, that was really dramatic.
Right.
So there definitely were moments like that were really tense and scary. But, like, a lot of the smaller things didn't play as much. What did you think about the whole Hopper dying thing? Maybe this is more just, like, me understanding television. I knew he would, like, it's not that they, like, foreshadowed it necessarily, but I knew he was going to die this season. Just something about the way that television shows work. I just was like, I feel like Hopper's probably going to die this season.
Yes, they smear quote killed Hopper. He's not dead.
He is not dead.
He jumped into the Upside Down, and the Russians pulled him out because at the end, when they're after the credit sequence,
and they say,
like,
"Oh, not the American."
Oh, not the American. That's fucking Hopper. Like, no duh.
And again, I'm hoping that they subvert the expectation that was a red herring and it's actually a different American person. Like, maybe it's the dude that was running the lab in season 1, Papa, whatever. Because that was in season 2 when 8 is in 11's head as him, and he's like, you know I'm not dead. Like, you know that. It could be him. So, like, that's an example of, like, hey, could this be subverting our expectations? I will be bummed if Hopper is dead, because I love the character.
Yeah, me too.
But I kind of would prefer him to actually be dead, because that's more narratively interesting than, like, yet another fake-out death.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. It didn't have the impact that it did for a lot of people, because it was so obvious that he wasn't dead, because they didn't show it.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing online, like, without it being spoiled, like, a lot of people were like, oh, I cried at the end of season 3 because of X, Y, and Z, which I'm sure was the Hopper death moment, which it didn't impact me at all, because it felt like it was not actually dead.
Well, so. Right. Well, and also, when it shows the thing exploding, he's not standing there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, doy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty obvious that he's not actually dead.
Overall, I was disappointed because I didn't like how the genre changed. Like, previously, they took horror genres and adapted them to fit their show. And season 3 felt like they adapted their show to fit the horror genres. And that, I thought, was not as effective as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
But it was still a very fun ride. I enjoyed a lot of the big set-piece moments.
Yeah, there's
the whole
a lot
Billy
of fan-servicey stuff in it.
Yes. The Billy thing didn't hit me as much either, because that character's such an asshole.
Yeah,
like,
they never really did anything to make you feel anything for him.
Giving him some pathos, like, doesn't undo him being a piece of human garbage.
Right.
So, like, I wasn't sad that he died at the end. Like, fuck off.
The season starts with him attempting to commit adultery.
Right.
So I feel like it's a just and fitting end.
Right. So I know you brought up some like theories and stuff on where it was going to go, so I wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think they bring Hopper back season 4. I think they bring him back season 5 because they've said they think the show will be over after season 4 or 5. I bet the show goes to season 5, and I bet that's when Hopper comes back. I hope season 4 goes a lot more into the Upside Down because season 3 had like almost no Upside Down.
Right.
So,
well, because the Mind Flayer was in our reality now.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It was strange. I don't know what a season 4 looks like, especially since everyone kind of like spread out.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like I don't want the show to end yet because I love it. But the way that season 3 ended, not the little teaser at the end, but like with them all saying goodbye and the note from Hopper and them driving off, like that felt like a very bittersweet actual ending to Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And I would have been satisfied with that actually being the ending of the show. So I agree. It feels weird now that like, how are they going to get everybody back together? The teaser of it being in Russia where they're, I guess, breeding a Demogorgon or trying to like train a Demogorgon to fight for them. I don't know like what the goal is there.
Right.
But like that seems, I don't know, making that the enemy, I'm not sure will be as interesting, but I have faith in the Duffer Brothers to come up with something narratively interesting because they've succeeded so far. But
sure.
Yeah, how they're going to get everyone back together, will parts of it take place in Russia now? Like a lot of that, I'm not sure how that stuff's going to come together. Like I mentioned last time, I would love to expand the universe farther and like, is there another superpowered person? It doesn't seem like they're going to go that direction, but I think that would be cool from a world building perspective.
Yeah, well, especially if they're going to build towards some really big, larger scale conflict in like to end the show with. I feel like you're going to want more people than just 11.
Yeah, when the Hopper moment happened, this was like. So, like, if that isn't Hopper in the jail cell, but he is alive, because, like, when the Hopper moment happened and you didn't see his body, my initial thought was somehow he ran through the gate before it happened.
Yeah.
Which is your theory as well, but then you think the Russians got him from the Upside Down and he's in the jail cell. But theoretically, if it wasn't him in the jail cell and he's in the Upside Down, I was like, what would be a cool cold open of season 4? And it's the Russians are in the Upside Down, like a big group of army soldiers are like exploring in the Upside Down with their guns and shit, walking around, and then they're like, it pans out and you see they're coming through the gate, blah blah blah, and then they all leave, and then it's like a slow pan in the Upside Down over, and then you just see like Hopper hiding behind something, like having watched what just happened. That I thought would have been a really cool.
Or
cold open.
These Russian soldiers are in the Upside Down and they're like being hunted and they're like they're terrified and they're scared and like they're scared of like a Demogorgon like killing or whatever, and it turns out
it's actually Hopper. That would be cool too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure where season 4 is going to go, and that's probably a good thing. Like if it was super obvious what it was going to be, that'd be less interesting. But yeah, I continue to be excited to see more of the show. It's still one of the coolest things on television. Well, television in quotes, I guess. But yeah. Any other theorizing about what it would be?
Not really. I mean, those are kind of all my ideas.
Yeah, I guess my thing about the Mind Flayer is that going to continue to be the only bad guy? Because theoretically, because Kelly and I talked about this a little bit, because the Upside Down is a different dimension, right?
Right.
And so in this black wet area that 11 goes, she made contact with the Demogorgon, which is what connected our dimension and the Upside Down dimension. Theoretically, could there be a bunch of other dimensions out there that she could somehow connect? And I feel like if the show was going to go on forever, that's something that they would explore. But I think after 3 seasons of the Upside Down, the Mind Flayer, the Demogorgon, I don't think they can move in a different direction. I think it needs to continue to be that.
And my only fear that's is the after credit sequence of the final season is her connecting another dimension or something. And
yeah.
Whoa, it could go on forever, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. My only fear is that can they keep the Mind Flayer story interesting for another 2 seasons, potentially?
Perhaps if there is something that flays the Mind Flayer. If
Oh,
there's something
boy.
above the Mind... Like, because the whole deal with the Mind Flayer is it wants to, like, enter our dimension and take over. What if it wants to do that
Because it's working for something?
Or it's trying to escape something else.
Oh, okay.
In the Upside Down.
Yeah.
If there's something worse in the Upside Down.
Right. That's possible. Cool. Well, I'm excited to watch more of it. Other stuff we've been watching is more competition reality show stuff. So Netflix has a new competition show called Blown Away that is about glass blowing. It is a bad competition show. Not because of the premise, which is interesting. Like, glass blowing is a really cool niche thing that is fascinating to learn about and to see the creations and the creativity. But the episodes are only 23 minutes long. And so you just never learn enough about the process, and you don't spend enough time with the final product and them, like, analyzing and talking about the final product to ever fully get invested and feel like I'm really learning anything about glass blowing. Because it's not like a cooking show where, like, everyone knows how to cook in some fashion. There is a cultural familiarity with cooking that you don't need to show the process of cooking as much on a cooking competition show. It's more about the result, the tasting, and talking about it. But glass blowing is not something that people are really familiar with the process.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like this would be a really good competition show if it was an hour long. And it's weird that being on Netflix, that they stuck to the, like, 22, 23 minute thing that broadcast shows are on because of commercial breaks. It just seems like a weird decision to arbitrarily make. And I'm sure it was not a decision made lightly where they thought this was the right approach. I firmly believe that it was not. So that's ruining it a lot. Like, Kelly and I are not interested really in watching it. We just watch it every once in a while just because if we're bored.
Okay.
So yeah, I would like to, I don't know, if they were going to do another season, I would want to see it be longer and spend some more time learning about how these people are doing these insane things with glass.
Right.
We're still watching So You Think You Can Dance, so we are past the audition round, and now we were at the Academy round, which is where they take all the people that succeeded in the auditions, put them all together in a big class, and they do all the different styles, a bunch of choreography, and they cut from there to find the top 20 people, which they will then cut down to the top 10 people. What pisses me the fuck off is that they have now gotten to the top 20, and maybe 6 or 7 of the top 20 people are people who we saw audition. Wow. Meaning 90% of the people that auditioned early got cut during the Academy section. And most of them got cut on the first day of the Academy section. Which, again, goes to my point when I was ranting about the auditions of, like, why are you showing me all of these mediocre dancers and not giving me enough time spent with the people that will actually make it on the show?
Yeah.
So that has been really, really frustrating as someone that loves So You Think You Can Dance. It's also frustrating because it's season 16. The scale of the show has been dialed back significantly. Like, they used to do auditions around the country. They used to go to all these different cities. The Academy was this really blown out week-long thing. And this season, it's like all of the auditions are just in one place in LA. The Academy was only 2 episodes. It was really truncated. And instead of it being 20 dancers making it onto the shows, the actual competition, it's only 10, which they did last season as well. But that justification was they had all-stars of, like, people's favorite dancers from past seasons had a partner on the new show, and they always danced together, which was not a format I enjoyed, because then instead of people voting for the new dancer they liked, it was like, if it was an all-star that they liked, the new dancer stayed in the competition because people liked the all-star.
Okay.
And, like, that's not fair. Like, that's an unfair advantage. Like, we're not actually judging these new dancers' talent. We just like the all-star enough that we keep them around, which was super frustrating. And I don't know if they're doing that this time because it's only 10 dancers again, or if they're going to find a different way. Hopefully it's a different way. But just it being such a smaller group of dancers just means the best part of the show, which is the choreographed live shows that they do, there are going to be far fewer of them than there used to be. So that's a bummer. Because, I'm sure we have 16 episodes. 10 of them are the live shows, so you have 6 episodes to do all the other shit. You have to make it work. I'm sure that's what happened.
Yeah.
And their solution was, okay, 10 dancers, 10 episodes. What I would have done is 20 dancers in 10 episodes, and let's just cut a guy and a girl each episode until we get down to the top 10, and then it's cut 1 per. So that's how I would have solved that problem, just because I want to see more dancers on the live shows, but it is what it is. We watched the first episode of Gordon Ramsay Uncharted, which is...
Hold on.
Yes.
I like the idea of Gordon Ramsay starring in
an Uncharted
movie. These ancient ruins are rotten!
I was very disappointed to learn that it was not that.
Dang it!
Yeah, it's Gordon Ramsay sort of globetrotting. And so the first one, he goes to Peru, and he's like in the wilderness of Peru, the Incan, like he's learning a lot about ancient Incan cooking techniques.
Okay.
He's with this like famous Peruvian chef, and they kind of compete against each other of like, here's everything I learned about Peruvian food, and they cook together at the end. It's fun. A lot of it is more about Gordon Ramsay's shtick than it is the food, which I don't enjoy as much because Gordon Ramsay's been around so long. Like, Don't get me wrong, I love the guy, but like his whole like, I'm gonna swear at everything is sort of losing its luster a bit. But it's a fun show. Like it's on National Geographic currently.
Okay.
So I think there will be a new episode every week. So I'm sure we'll continue to watch it and see kind of where other places he goes. Because at first I thought it was going to be more of like his version of Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations, where like he goes to cities across the world and just like eats the local cuisine.
Okay.
But this seems to be far more of like, I'm going to go into the wilderness with like, not Bear Grylls style, but like the natives that like live on a farm and cook over a fire in their hut. Like that's the kind of thing he's doing, which is cool because like there isn't a lot of food shows that do that sort of thing. So it's neat.
Huh.
And then we've been watching Queer Eye, which I know you guys have watched as well.
Yeah.
We only watched the first 2 episodes. It continues to be awesome. It's amazing.
It's the best
I love that show.
It's the best show on television.
It's quite good. You guys been watching anything else?
I watched the first couple episodes of the new Comedians in Cars that went up.
Oh, okay.
Jerry
Yeah,
Seinfeld's show.
I am not caught up. I think
Okay.
I still have like the whole previous season as well to watch.
Okay.
Because I was watching that show a lot when I was really sick. I think like it was like a year ago, I think maybe. It was like the whole month of April I was sick. And so I just like stayed home and just watched that show on repeat all the time. And I haven't really gone back to it because it's so short and digestible.
Yeah.
That like I kind of lose investment in watching more than one episode at a time.
Okay.
Any like big stars?
So
from this
Eddie
season?
Murphy's the first episode, and he and Eddie have a really fascinating conversation about Bill Cosby, and then that conversation kind of continues a little bit when he does an episode with Seth Rogen later. So there's some really interesting takes on sides of Bill Cosby that unfortunately only certain people have seen.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting stuff there. And then also just like them talking about like the glory days of stand-up comedy when it was, coming up big on the upswing, and just like how wild that time must have been, and just like how things aren't like that anymore.
Yes.
Like those kinds of environments aren't fostered anymore, and like you can't really kind of experience that sort of like a renaissance, a new thing. It feels like we're kind of past the ability to have that kind of thing happen.
Yeah, just because of the internet and social media, like
Right.
that stuff doesn't really happen that way anymore.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating
Sure.
stuff. Watched a lot of movies.
Bunch of shitty horror movies.
Several, yes. The first one's not a horror movie, though. It's The Highwaymen with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. And they play the two guys that were the two ex-Texas Rangers that were sent after Bonnie and Clyde.
Yes, I saw a trailer for this.
It's a little slow in a couple of spots, but dang it, man, it's really good. It's an awesome movie. It's an awesome movie. Like the two of them together gelled really well. Like Woody Harrelson's so good, man.
He's amazing.
He's so good.
I feel like he's been in so many movies, and I can't think of a single one that he's been bad in.
Right. Yeah. He's so good. So The Highwaymen. Awesome. I also really like that period of time.
Right.
It's just a fun... Everything looks cool. Everything looks awesome. It's like
everyone
it's the
was
best
cool
style.
back then. Yeah.
Everyone wore suits. Everyone wore
and
dresses.
hats and shit. Yeah.
Those fancy hats. You could go into a gun store and buy 30 guns. What a great time. And then my wife and I watched Us, which is that the horror movie
new
about
Jordan Peele.
Yes.
From Get Out. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a weird movie.
It looked very weird.
And like I still don't quite understand how it ended. I don't want to talk about it because the whole point of horror movies is...
Right. Well, and I intend to see it at some point because
Okay.
I loved Get Out, and as
All right.
much as I hate horror movies, I want to watch this. So yeah, no spoilers.
It does not go where I thought it was going to go at all. At all. And like there's some like they have a lot of moments where like they try and lighten the tension too, and I don't know, it's a strange movie. Then the wife and I watched Cam, which is a horror, quote unquote, more like a thriller about a cam girl.
Nice.
And at the end of it, she didn't learn her lesson. So screw that movie. She so basically the whole... I'll spoil this one because this is like a whatever. I feel like it's kind of old too. I don't know. So spoilers for Cam. She basically she's trying to break top 50 on this website of cam girls, and she's almost there, and then someone hijacks her channel, someone who looks just like her and is doing her shtick and is in a room that looks just like her room. Like they're doing her thing, and she's like locked out of her own account and like trying to figure it out. And it turns out like all these like details of her life are being like things that she's never shared with anybody. This person knows, all this other stuff. So I never really got the answer if it was like supernatural or if it was like a technology thing or if there was a person behind it. They never really answer that question. And then at the end of it, like she just managed to get her account back. And then at the end of it, she's like, well, I'm just, if it happens again, I'll just delete my account and make another one. And again, and again, and again. And I'm like, okay, you deserve to die. Like, you're an idiot. Whatever. That movie was stupid. Then we watched The First Summoning, which, similarly to last episode, felt like someone's college movie that they made. And It was the same movie that my wife and I have seen maybe 12 times now. It's the same movie, just in a different place. So don't watch First Summoning. It's really bad, and all of the actors are terrible. Then we watched The Conjuring 2, which we did not realize. So my wife and I were sitting there like, Conjuring 2, and we looked at the main actor and the main actress. I don't remember their names, whatever. You can look it up. But we're like, man, like they were in The Conjuring 1, but the guy was also in this other movie. What was he from? Oh, he's from Insidious, I think. So are Insidious and Conjuring tied? Turns out, no, they're not. But The Conjuring is part of James Wan. Is that the director or producer? Okay. James Wan?
Yes.
He did
he did some
Aquaman.
of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah,
he
Fast
did
and Furious
Aquaman,
7 and Aquaman. So he has essentially started a
James
horror
Wan-verse
movie. Yeah, a James Wan-averse horror-averse. Like,
yeah, because he worked on stuff. He worked on the Saw movies as well.
Yes, yeah. So he's familiar with working on franchises. So like he had this idea for, hey, what if we had a horror movie shared universe like the Marvel movies do, which I think is kind of interesting. And like the first Conjuring was a good horror movie. Second Conjuring that we just watched, also pretty good. And then I guess Annabelle Creation is also part of that, because like in The Conjuring 2, there's like this room. They're based off of 2 real people that went around and like solved these haunted mystery things and like did exorcisms and stuff. And I guess like the 2 main characters are based off of those people from real life, and they have this room of all these relics from cases they've solved that they kind of go into at the end of the movie. And there's the Annabelle doll in the back, and then I didn't realize this, but in the movie, like the creepy nun, the demon nun, was like in the movie. I was like, oh wait, is the Nun movie based off of this thing? And it turns out it is, which Weird. My wife and I haven't seen that movie. So basically The Conjuring 2 started, it has made 3 spin-off movies, because there's the Nun and Annabelle, which I guess the first Annabelle was not very good, so they remade it with Annabelle Creation, which is apparently much better, and retcon stuff from the first one. So maybe don't watch the first Annabelle, just watch Annabelle Creation, is what I'm seeing online. And then I've
got some news for you. I'm not going to watch any of these.
Okay. Well, I'm the you as in
listeners.
And oh god, what was it? Oh, The Crooked Man. So there was a movie that just came out, I think it was like 2016 or something, The Crooked Man. Unrelated, turns out. There is a new Crooked Man movie that's based off The Crooked Man from Conjuring 2 that's coming out like 2020 or something, that they don't have like a trailer yet for yet.
Well, there's also The Conjuring 3.
Yes, there's also a 3rd Conjuring movie. So here's the Conjuring James Wan-averse. There's The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, The Nun, The Crooked Man, and Conjuring 3. Crooked Man and Conjuring 3 are not out yet. So that is the James Wan horror-verse.
Sweet.
It's interesting. I don't know.
It's
cool that they're doing that. Just like how the Paranormal Activity movies were bad, but it was cool that they had narrative threads that followed through all of them. That's neat that they do that. Because a lot of horror movies are just like one shot, the same thing over and over again. It's nice when they do something different. So it's cool.
I have no interest in seeing any of those because I hate those kinds of horror movies.
Right.
But it is cool. It is a cool idea.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to mention before we move on to news. So a while ago, we got an email, I believe from Steve in DC, per usual, asking about like music and stuff that we're listening to. I don't know how or why this happened. I was randomly... How did I even discover this? Oh, it was Pentatonics. I was watching a new Pentatonics video, and the song was Waving Through a Window. And I was like, I really like this song. It sounds very musical theater. And I had no idea, no context for what the song was. I was like, is this an original song that Pentatonics created? Are they doing their, a cappella adaptation of something? But I liked, it sounded very musical theater, and I thought that was cool. So I was looking through the comments, and people were like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome that you guys are doing this song. And so I was like, okay, so it is an actual song that they're remaking. So I clicked on a video that was Waving Through a Window, sung by Ben Platt, who, if people have seen Pitch Perfect, he played the, nerdy friend in Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
So I watched him sing the song at the Tony Awards, which was the video I clicked. And holy shit, he was fucking incredible singing that song. Like, no hyperbole, one of the best voices I've ever heard. Holy crap. So I was like, okay, I gotta learn more about this shit. Turns out it's from a musical called Dear Evan Hansen, which I had not heard of, and apparently I was living under a rock because it was the big shit, and it was overshadowed by Hamilton. But Dear Evan Hansen won the Tony Award in 2017. Ben Platt won the Tony Award for the show, and so I went down a rabbit hole watching. And he has just put out a solo album of himself. So I listened to all of that shit because he's incredible. But I listened to the whole soundtrack and I read all the story about Dear Evan Hansen. Had you heard of this musical? You being involved in that shit? I didn't know. And I was just like I don't know why this has connected. And maybe it's the story of the musical is it's this dude with social anxiety who gets wrapped up in another student's suicide, and he gets wrapped up in it where he lies and says that they were friends, and it's this whole whatever. And maybe it connected with me because of the social anxiety thing, and I really liked the character because he's kind of awkward and shy and stuff and weird. But I can't stop listening to it. The music is absolutely incredible, and it's I when I was working from home last week, I listened to some of it while I was writing some stuff, and it's been in my head for over a week. I cannot two songs in particular I cannot get out of my head. Waving Through a Window is one of them because it's incredible. Look that up. The other one's Only Us, which it's part of the story of the musical is he has a crush on the kid who kills himself's little sister, and they kind of like form a bond because he gets involved in their lives and they're kind of together, and the truth comes out that he was not, and that's kind of it's not a happy musical.
Right.
Like you think it might be from some of the stuff, but it is not at all a happy musical. But those two songs I just cannot get the fuck out of my head. And like it's annoying, but also they're incredible songs, and so I don't really care. I'm like I was home alone with my daughter yesterday, and I would just like randomly just be singing it to her because I cannot stop. So for folks, like if you like musical theater, you probably already know about this musical, so you're like, duh, Shay. But go listen to the soundtrack. It's going to bum you the hell out. Like what I did is, because I listened to a lot of the random songs, I was like, oh, I don't know enough about the context. So I just went to the Wikipedia page and I read through the plot synopsis, and it does a good job of like, this song takes place during this scene. So I like would read the scene and then listen to the song, and then read the next scene and listen to that song. So I kind of got more of the through line as I'm listening to the soundtrack. So I recommend doing it that way. But holy shit, Darren Evan Hansen. I don't care about musical theater. I'm not that type of person. But something about this, I cannot stop listening to this shit. And I think a lot of it's because of Ben Platt. Because holy crap, dude. This guy. He's good. He's good at singing and acting. So there you go. That's the like one thing of music I've been listening to in the past month, and it's a fucking depressing musical.
I was listening to Off Book when I crashed my car.
Nice. Well, not nice, but
Jess was trying to hit a high note
when you were spinning out.
Yeah, and like I'm sure there was something really like funny going on because like they were all like laughing as I like regained control of my car and like was sitting in it, and my wife like came running up to the door like, "Are you okay?" Yeah. And like they're all laughing and singing and stuff, and I'm like, this is just like a weird dichotomous situation.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's dive into some news. There is not much at all. I was expecting, because I know last episode I mentioned, hey, San Diego Comic-Con's going to happen. There's going to be a bunch of shit to talk about there. There isn't. Like, it was a bunch of stuff that you or I don't really care about. Like, oh, they're making a new Top Gun movie, which, like, of course,
dude, I care about that.
No, I'm not saying I don't care about that movie, but it's more like for the purposes of this podcast, it's not like news to talk about. The only big stuff is the Marvel Phase 4, which we will talk about. But
Tom Cruise doing a new movie is news. he
but there's not like.
So, because civilians aren't allowed to fly military vehicles, he doesn't fly a fighter jet, but he does fly a high-performance aero vehicle in the movie.
Of course he does. He's Tom fucking Cruise.
Apparently, he actually flew the helicopter in the new Mission Impossible movie. He actually flew it.
Because he's a badass.
He's crazy. He's a crazy, crazy man. I don't agree with most of the things he says or thinks, but he's great.
But just take his characters. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So, at E3, Ubisoft announced that they were doing their Uplay Plus streaming service. They were like, hey, more than 100 titles, blah, blah, blah. So they've outlined what those games are. And it's like most of their stuff, which is pretty cool. So this is coming in September to PC, as well as coming to Stadia eventually for $15 a month. But a lot of what is cool about it isn't just the base game. So like with Rainbow Six Siege, for example, you get all of the DLC included.
This is
so
the
like
most
all of the new
part.
operators
like,
and stuff.
I figured it would just be base game stuff for
right.
everything.
Well, then they get you to like buy the microtransactions and the DLC and stuff.
Right, that's what I figured.
At least for a lot of the games, they are not doing that, and even new games that are coming out. So like Ghost Recon Breakpoint is going to be included in Uplay Plus, and that version of the game is the like deluxe edition of that game, which is it's just a cool thing. So I'm not going to read all the games, but big hitters. It's like most of the big franchises you would expect. So all of the Assassin's Creed games. All of the Far Cry games, except for the first one for some reason. Both of the South Park games, Ghost Recon Wildlands, which also includes all the expansions and stuff. the Splinter Cell games, both of the Watchdog games, the first Beyond Good and Evil, the indie games Child of Light and Valiant Hearts, which are both really awesome, all the Rayman games. So, like, pretty much everything you would expect as far as their historical catalog is going to be there. The notable exception is The Division. So neither of the Division games are included, which is an interesting omission.
Yeah.
But the new games are also coming. So Gods and Monsters, which they announced at E3, Rainbow Six Quarantine, which they announced at E3, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Watch Dogs Legion, which they announced at E3, all of those games are going to be part of Uplay Plus, which $15 a month, $180 a year. Like, if you think about it, if you intend on getting Watch Dogs Legion, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Breakpoint, that pays for the service by itself. Plus, you get all those other historical games. Like, in the next year, I should say, if you plan on buying those 3 games in the next year.
Right.
So, like, if you look at it from a value prop perspective, if you are really invested in the Ubisoft stuff, and you either haven't played or would want to replay a lot of their kind of large, famous franchises, $15 a month, it sounds like a lot, but it's a pretty good deal if you consider all the new games and stuff that are coming to it. So,
yeah.
Pretty robust lineup, I would say. Nintendo Switch. We talked last episode about how they have the new Lite version, which is not docked, mobile only. They've also announced they have new Joy-Cons. Hooray. If you want to pay $80 for new Joy-Cons. They have a blue and neon yellow combo and a neon purple and neon orange combo. They both look cool. I have the gray ones. I think those are fine.
Yeah,
I'm not going to spend more money to buy colored.
And the gray ones.
Yeah, I have no interest in spending $80 to buy different colored Joy-Cons.
Right. I will never need more than 4 Joy-Cons.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of like all the video game stuff. So like I said, nothing is happening post E3. It will pick up eventually, but we're in the summer slump, as they say. Talking about Comic-Con. We got a first actual trailer for Netflix's The Witcher show.
They fixed the wig.
Did they?
Yeah. The wig looks...
Well, it looks better.
It looks better.
He still looks weird. He still looks like he's wearing a wig to me because it doesn't look real.
Well, yeah, he does not have the face for that kind of hair.
He looks like an elf. Like, he looks like Legolas, but on steroids.
Right, yeah. If Legolas was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, totally. So, like, a lot of people have been freaking out and like, hey, this is clearly a high-budget show, like Netflix is committing to this, which I totally agree with. You can see the budget in the production value. They're clearly like, hey, there's a gap now in Game of Thrones. Everyone on the fucking planet has Netflix. It
seems like they're chasing that real hard.
My issue is, as someone that has not read the books, I have no major affinity for the fiction. I have a respect for the games, but I've only played a couple of hours of Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, so I'm certainly not invested into the IP. So as a person that likes fantasy stuff and knows that people love those games and the books, watching the trailer, my reaction was, boy, this looks generic as hell.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like an amalgamation of, like, every fantasy trope you could possibly think of. And it might just be a bad trailer, it might be bad editing, bad copywriting in the trailer, but all the, like, pop-ups and stuff, like the narration that's happening, the, like, text that, like, oh, the biggest monsters are the ones we create ourselves. Like, all that shit is just so generic and boring. So, I don't know. I'm watching it going, I don't see why I need to care about this. It's something I'm going to watch because it is The Witcher. It is a new Netflix series. It's fantasy. I'm going to give it a shot.
It's free to watch because we have Netflix.
Well, because we have it, yeah. I mean, we're paying for it. But, yeah, I mean, the people, like, freaking out about it. And maybe it's because they know the fiction, and so they're seeing the Easter eggs and the minute details that are making them invested. But as someone that is just going to watch it as a fantasy television show, I'm like, I'm not seeing anything to get me excited about this other than it's a Netflix show with a lot of money behind it.
Yeah, like, I would not pay to watch this show, not just because I think it looks generic, but also because I don't want to support the author of The Witcher because he's a huge asshole.
Fair enough.
But, like, also, like, I've never read the books either because I refuse to give that guy my money. I mean, I could buy them used, but whatever. Mm-hmm. But, like, I mean, they've come out and said, like, it's only, like, we're following the book story, not referencing any of the game stuff, which is kind of a bummer because I think, from what I have heard colloquially, that there are a lot of scenes and moments in the game that are not in the books that are really good. And there are maybe some things that the game does better than the books. It's probably just a matter of preference, but I've heard like way certain characters interact with each other and kind of their rapport is a lot better in the games than the books. I don't know if it's better means more fan servicey or not. I have no idea, but yeah, I don't know. Like I have a hard time. Like the author has he's really soured me on the series. I have a hard time getting behind it.
Right.
In a meaningful way, just because I know what kind of an asshole that guy is.
Yeah. Them like saying we're not doing anything from the video games seems weird, like to have such a hard stance against any of that stuff. But that might be more just about setting expectations.
Yeah.
Like they don't want people to get their hopes up to see a particular moment or character. I mean, I don't know the big differences between the games and the books, obviously, but a lot of people were very disappointed in hearing that.
Yeah, well, I also have a feeling that maybe the author of the Witcher novels is partly to blame for that, because he really hates the games. He fucking hates the games, and he refuses to accept the fact that the games drove book sales, not the other way around, which is asinine. Because it's a completely different demo. But yeah, he's such a dick when it comes to the games. Like, he won't sign fans' copies of the games,
right?
And like shit like that. Like, he's such an asshole.
Another weird thing that's come out about this, and it's specific to Henry Cavill. So, like, way back in the day, it came out in like a Letterman interview or something that he was like super hardcore into WoW, and he almost missed his Man of Steel audition because he was raiding in WoW. And people were like, holy shit, this like famous, rich, handsome, buff actor is a video game nerd. And so people like really glommed onto that, which like, I get it. I get why people would think that like a celebrity, like it's like, oh, this famous person has similar interests as me. Like, I get why that might be cool. I think there's a little bit of, it's kind of sad of like why the fact that he is famous, why does that matter more what his opinions are? But that's a whole other topic.
Yep.
So in an interview for The Witcher, it came out that like, oh, he played through the Witcher games. And people were like, oh, it's fucking awesome, dude. Like, this famous actor playing through The Witcher. I love The Witcher. Now he loves The Witcher. And I'm just like, why would he not have played through them? One, he plays video games. Like, yeah, sure. But also, like, it's character research.
Study, yeah.
Like that's so stupid. And you see stories of, I think it was Joaquin Phoenix actually in the new Joker movie. And he's like, no, I haven't read the comics. And I'm like, fuck off. I'm not saying you need to do the same thing that is done in the comics, but why would you not want every bit of information you can have as an actor? That seems like such a pretentious perspective to take. So this being the opposite of like, wow, how cool that he played through the games of a character he's going to play on television. Like, if he didn't play the games, that would be stupid. Why are we rewarding him for playing the game? That reaction was dumb, I thought. And I think it's just because video games are not cool still. They're being more accepted, obviously, but like hardcore gamers are still looked at as being lame. So this like handsome, rich, famous dude playing video games, they're like, oh, he's the savior of video games. So yeah. I will say, as generic as the trailer felt, I will say it was effective as a teaser trailer, because it doesn't really tell you like what the story is. It's mostly like, here are some of the characters, here's the mood. So from that perspective, I thought it was effective. It's just that like, it was effective at conveying something, but the thing it was conveying was kind of boring.
Yeah.
I thought. Okay, so this is not San Diego Comic-Con related, but I need to bring it up. So they released a trailer for a quote-unquote live-action movie of the musical Cats.
Yeah.
And live action's in quotations because it's all CG. It's like the new Lion King movie where it's not actually live action. Right. But, so it's a trailer for Cats. Normally, this wouldn't rate to talk about on the podcast, because, like, who really cares?
Hey, remember the Cat in the Hat movie?
Yes.
It's that. All the characters are the Cat in the Hat.
But taking itself seriously.
Yes.
I mostly bring it up just because if you have not seen the trailer for Cats, you need to watch the trailer for Cats. I will link it in the show notes, but you can find it on YouTube anywhere really easily.
More importantly,
holy shit.
More importantly than watching the trailer for Cats, you need to watch the trailer for Cats that has the music from the Us trailer mixed on top of it. The I got 5 on it creepy remix for the Us trailer. There's a Twitter video. I think it's only on Twitter. But someone put that trailer music over the Cats trailer. Holy crap. It is amazing.
Yeah, it kind of like makes it feel like a horror movie, which is very good. A guy I know, he also did a re-edit of this trailer to make it a trailer for a Thundercats movie. So it has like a Thundercats Go kind of stuff behind it, which is also very funny.
The internet's good sometimes.
It is nuts. Like, it looks like a thing they made as a joke. It is so awful. I am, like, baffled that people watching this were like, yes, I am proud of this. This movie is going to be amazing.
It's just Rule 34 of the movie, dude. It's
fucking crazy.
Like, hey, you know all these celebrities you're attracted to? Would you still be attracted to them if they looked like cats? Or would you be more attracted to them if they looked like cats? It's the ultimate furry test.
Oh, man. Also, which I think is fucked up. So, like, James Corden is in it. Rebel Wilson is in it. Yeah. And both of them are fat cats.
Yes.
And, like, I don't know, something about that feels offensive to me.
Like, you could have done anything. It's CG.
Yeah.
You didn't have to make them
have to
cats.
be fat. Yeah.
I mean, whatever. They signed on. They're okay with it.
All right. So, last piece of news here. At San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel kind of unveiled their big plans for Phase 4, all the movies. No big surprises. It was a bunch of stuff that had been rumored and semi-announced before, but we kind of got dates and whatnot on it. So, we'll just kind of walk through the timeline here. So, May 1st, 2020 is the next scheduled Marvel movie release. It is a Black Widow movie. It is a mock prequel that takes place between Avengers Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. It does not take place after Endgame for obvious reasons that Kyle doesn't understand because he has not seen Endgame.
What? Dude, did they kill
everyone? They all didn't you watch Infinity War?
Yeah,
all those
but
characters
like, they do the comic book thing and they come back, but does Black Widow not come back?
Do they do that thing?
I would assume so, yes.
But you haven't seen the movie. Do they do that thing? You don't know.
You'll never.
I
know. I know they do. I don't have to see it to know.
So, anyway, Black Widow movie. David Harbour is in it. He's playing Alexei, which from the comics is the Russian version of Captain America. So I'm really curious to see what approach they are taking on that character, if David Harbour is going to get buff for this, or if they're going to make it a joke that he's like a dad bod Russian Captain America, which sounds way better to me.
That sounds funny.
Or they might not do that at all. He might just be a person that they're just doing a nod to the comics. Who knows? In the fall of 2020, we will see the launch of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier television show on Disney+. I again think it is weird that the show is called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, given how Endgame ends, which Kyle still doesn't understand. But you will if you watch the movie. You gotta, so you know what
I'm pretty sure they all live.
So yeah, I like both those characters. I can see why they are giving them their own show. There are a bunch of other shows that they are taking from the movies and now giving these character shows, which some of it seems a little weird, but we shall see. November 6th, 2020, we are getting The Eternals, which I believe had already been announced, and there was some casting rumors. Angelina Jolie was rumored. Millie Bobby Brown, the lead 11 from Stranger Things, was rumored as being in it. Have not seen anything about Millie Bobby Brown, but Angelina Jolie is in this movie. So people don't know what the Eternals are. I didn't really know what the Eternals were. So I did the hard work so that listeners don't have to. And let's talk about what the Eternals are. They were originally created in the comics as being surrogates for Greek gods. And a lot of their names are fairly similar to Greek gods as well. There was this celestial race called the Celestials that visit Earth, and they create two races, the Eternals and the Deviants. The Eternals are the sort of normal people that have powers, that are these Greek god characters, and the deviants are sort of these like manipulated evil versions of that, where they go bad, and it's the Eternals' job to protect Earth from the deviants. It's a comic book storyline.
So the Celestials just did that because they wanted to like pop some popcorn and
they
sit back and watch?
They do that. Like, they do that on different planets and stuff. Like, that's kind of their thing.
That's their jolly.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's a comic book version of, like, gods, like, actual gods, where, like, you know, like in Skyrim, the Daedric Lords or whatever, like, their fun is fucking with us.
Right.
Like, when you are a god, the most fun you can have is fucking with humans, and that's kind of what the Celestials do. So here's the cast so far. Angelina Jolie is playing Athena, who is the daughter of Zurus. And you can probably see a correlation to Athena and Zeus. Really solid stuff. So she's like a Wonder Woman type. She's just a badass warrior. In the comics, she has a love triangle thing with the leader of the Deviants. Not sure if they're going to go that direction or not. Richard Madden, who was Robb in Game of Thrones. He is playing Icarus, which is spelled differently from the Greek god Icarus.
It has a K and an I.
And so part of the thing with the Eternals is they just kind of have like Superman powers. It's just kind of like whatever powers they want, they all have. But some of them have sort of specialties. So like his is he has like energy manipulation, like Captain Marvel style kind of powers. Kumail Nanjiani, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong.
No, that's right.
Is it? Okay. He's an Indian actor who's become really popular. I don't know if he's Indian. He's Middle Eastern. I don't know if he's Pakistan or whatever. But he is in what's that show on HBO that I really liked about the company that makes an application?
Silicon
Valley. He's in Silicon Valley. He's pretty hot right now. He's a comedian. He is playing Kingo, who is a swordsman. Lauren Ridloff, who is an actress that is deaf in real life. She was on The Walking Dead for a while. I don't know if she's still on it or not. She's a black actress who is deaf. She is playing Makari, who in the comics is a male character, which is... There are a couple characters in the comics who are male who are now female in the show, or in the movie, rather. So she kind of has all those same powers. But in the comics, there's a storyline where she gives up all of her other powers to be fast. Like a Flash type character, or Quicksilver in the Marvel universe. So that's probably the route they're going to go in the movies to make them more specialized, so she's probably super fast. And then Brian Tyree Henry, who is a black actor. He's on Atlanta. People would recognize him if they saw him. He's playing Fastos, who is the really smart one. That's about the most important thing about him. Selma Hayek is in it. She's playing Ajak, who again was a guy in the comics, who's a hand-to-hand combatant. And apparently in the movie, she will be the leader of the Eternals. I'm sure Angelina Jolie's character will be the main character because it's Angelina Jolie, but Selma Hayek's character is the leader of all of them. Leah McHugh is playing Sprite, who in the comics is a boy. He is a character that cannot grow, so he's like stuck in a child boy body, who's kind of like a Loki. He's a kind of a trickster, illusionist sort of character who will be a female in the movie. And finally, Don Lee is Gilgamesh, who is like the best fighter. He's blind. He has like Daredevil kind of radar powers. And he's a badass, strong guy. That's the cast. I don't know. As someone that is not invested in the Eternals, I don't know a lot of the nitty gritty of like the directions they could go with this. It just feels to me like a lot of these characters are the same as a lot of characters that already exist in other stuff. So it just is a weird
nothing feels
thing.
Really original about it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel all that fresh. But I think it is them expanding the universe, literally and figuratively, to give them more opportunities for other stuff. Obviously, well, this is a spoiler for Endgame, but there's a big multiverse thing in Endgame, which they could tap into with the Celestials and the Eternals, etc. Moving to 2021, February 2/21/21 is the release date of this movie, is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, who again, Shang-Chi is a lesser-known Marvel hero. He is a kung fu guy. He doesn't have superpowers. He's just a badass kung fu guy. He's being played by an actor who is pretty unknown. His name is Simu Liu. He is... Shoot, I don't remember. I believe he's a Chinese actor, but I could be wrong. But he's like a totally unknown, which is a pretty cool thing. On IMDb, the villain listed is the Mandarin, which could be interesting. For them to actually do like the real Mandarin, not the fake Mandarin from Iron Man 3.
Damn those oranges!
In spring 2021, we are getting another television show on Disney Plus called WandaVision, which I'm interested to know more about, again, because of the events of Avengers Endgame. Yeah. Also in spring 2021 is the Loki show. In May 2021, May 7th, we are getting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is a really good title.
It is.
I am interested because they're billing it as a horror movie, which the title doesn't quite match, because it's kind of a jokey title. Like, Multiverse of Madness sounds funny.
Well, like,
but they're saying...
blank blank in the blank blank is like a very old, like, adventure-y movie title. So it's weird.
Right. It is rated PG-13, like all the other ones are, so I'm not sure how much faith I have that they can do a horror movie like that's rated PG-13. But the bigger thing is they're making it very obvious that the multiverse is a thing they are going to be exploring, because it's in the name of the damn movie.
Right.
So I am not a big alternate reality fan, just because I think it creates a lot of messy storytelling and like lazy storytelling, because if you have multiple universes and parallel universes, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And I think that narrative restrictions are good for creativity. So we'll see what happens with this. It's weird that, like, we're waiting until 2021 to get a sequel to Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And in the summer of 2021, another show on Disney Plus, What If? So this is a long-running comic series in the Marvel Universe where it's just like alternate reality versions of characters. And again, this is just say like, what if all of the superheroes were girls? Which is like a lame example, but like you can do literally whatever you want because it's what if. They haven't given details. My guess is that this will be an animated show, because that seems like something that would be really hard to do in live action. But it is a lot of it's a cool opportunity to do things with popular characters that will no longer exist in the movies, a la Iron Man and Captain America, who are very clearly gone after the events of Endgame. Which you would know if you had seen the movie Endgame.
If they need some ideas for the What If show, one of my students, who is on the autism spectrum, he didn't really do it this past year, but a couple of years before then, his big thing was he would walk up and just start on some diatribe, like, what would happen if, and he would kind of launch into a random, like, what would happen if the Earth had a lot of gravity? And then I'm expected to answer in great detail what would happen if the Earth had a lot of gravity.
Yeah.
And he always, it would always make him laugh because he would make me answer these absurd questions, and he found that very funny.
Yeah.
So maybe they should
hire him, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. And then in the fall of 2021, we have a show that, Kyle, you're probably the most hyped for of everyone on the planet, and you're definitely going to be buying Disney Plus that you can watch this, and that's a Hawkeye television show.
All right, so my dislike for Jeremy Renner is well documented. All of my friends know, everyone in the universe knows, because this is the #1 podcast, and everyone listens to it.
Yes.
Everyone knows I don't like Jeremy Renner. My friends sometimes in our group chat will just send me pictures of Jeremy Renner or like it's like a YouTube video and I don't know what it is until I click on it, and it's Jeremy Renner singing a cover of a song, and I hate my friends.
I was going to say this because I didn't know if you knew about it. He has a new single. Like, he's putting out an album. It's really terrible. You should watch it.
Of course it's terrible.
It is awful. It's really bad.
It's Jeremy Renner. Of course it's terrible, Shay.
I have nothing against Jeremy Renner. It's just a really bad song. He is not good at singing. But it was pretty... I only watched like 30 seconds because I was like, okay, I get the gist. I don't want to watch the rest of this. But you should look up the music video because it's terrible.
I can't.
All right. And then in November 5th, 2021, sequel, Thor, Love and Thunder, which again, very good title.
Yep.
Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, is returning. What is interesting is Natalie Portman is back, and she will be playing a female Thor, which is fascinating. So
that makes sense if they're going with this multiverse stuff.
That is a great point.
Because
I'm sure that's what it is.
She's so very closely connected to like, Thor in this reality, quote unquote, that it makes sense in an alternate reality she could be Thor.
I'm sure that is what it is. That's a great point. Because my point was, in Thor the Dark World, which is the last one she was in, she gets like captured in the Aether, which is what the red power stone, soul, whatever the stone was. That's what the Aether, that's where that was, and that's how they kind of brought that one into it. And so she was like possessed or whatever. It was a bad movie. I don't remember a lot of the details. But that was her last appearance. And so that was going to be my answer was, something related to that made her worthy or whatever, but the multiverse explanation makes more sense. So yeah, and then they have 3 untitled projects still. So February 18th, 2022, May 6th, 2022, July 29th, 2022, all untitled movies. They have said they are definitely working on sequels to Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and still working on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Not sure if those are the 3 movies that would slot in for those untitled ones, or if those would get additional release dates. In particular, Guardians Volume 3, I have a hard time believing we're going to be waiting 3 more years for that movie.
Right.
But it's possible. They also announced they're doing a Blade movie with Mahershala Ali, who is an awesome actor, but they've said that, like, hey, this isn't actually part of the MCU canon. Like, he's not going to be in the MCU. Which is a bit disappointing, but that makes it pretty complicated.
I want superheroes to fight vampires.
Yeah, exactly.
What if there was a vampire superhero?
But then they're saying vampires exist in the Marvel universe.
Dude,
and
yeah.
Would be, no, thank you.
They're good. It's good enough for Metal Gear Solid. It's good enough for Marvel.
One of the things about the multiverse is here is your avenue to introduce the X-Men. So my guess is that one or some or all of these movies will include something, teasers, characters like that. That's how they're going to bring them in. They could do Fantastic Four that way as well. I'm not sure that that's as necessary because they're just superpowered people. They can introduce them however they want. But the idea of mutants doesn't exist in the MCU, so that kind of needs to be a sort of a extraterrestrial kind of thing that they could do through the multiverse. And that's kind of all the news. So the Marvel stuff, like, I am pretty burnt out on Marvel movies. I really want to see the new Spider-Man because I loved Spider-Man Homecoming. I really like Tom Holland. I have not been able to go see it because I'm a dad, which makes it difficult to like go to a movie by myself.
Right.
But I do really want to see that. All of these movies and television shows and stuff, like I'm not like, oh shit, I want this. The most exception would be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, just because it sounds really cool. But like introducing the Eternals, introducing Shang-Chi, a bunch of spin-off television shows, like nothing about it's really hitting me super hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just kind of need a bit of a break, which to be fair, they are giving us. Like the next Marvel thing is a year from now. So we are going to get a break, which is probably enough time for me to marathon all of the Marvel movies up to this point. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I know you haven't even seen all the stuff that exists currently.
No.
Is there anything in there that like you're interested in, or
Doctor Strange?
Obviously the Hawkeye show, but
I like Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
it's more that I just really like Benedict Cumberbatch.
Sure. Yeah, I liked that first one because it felt very different from other Marvel stuff, like dealing with the magic, the kind of visual creativity that they were able to explore with all the magic stuff. That it was kind of a breath of fresh air as a differentiation from a bunch of buff white dudes punching each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at that time, it was a really well timed release.
Yeah.
That movie.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right. So let's do a quick hate of the week, and then we got some emails. Hate of the week. So this is a short one. I mostly just want to, like, say it out loud to, like, hold myself accountable a little bit. I am getting frustrated at myself for not spending as much time as I should trying to grow the podcast. And I felt that a little bit, or, like, more so after last episode, because downloads were down a little bit. And they've been down a little bit since I launched the YouTube channel.
Well, they're called downloads for a reason, Shay.
Well, sure. But I should also plug, hey, you can listen to the episodes on YouTube now. They go up at the same time as the podcast. But some people, I'm sure, listen to them on YouTube now and therefore don't download. So a small downtick would make sense. But, like, our downloads from the last episode were lower than they've been in, like, a year. So, like, that bummed me out, obviously. And it just made me feel like I'm not doing enough to try to grow the audience. And from a certain level, a lot of it's luck or, like, placement on iTunes, which never happened for us, unfortunately, like, getting in the, like, new and noteworthy section when it first launches. But I don't know. It's just, like, a frustration at myself for not doing more research to figure out, like, finding additional ways of trying to get a new audience. Because I'm super thankful for how engaged a lot of people that listen to the podcast are, which is awesome. But, like, I want more people to listen to it. I think that it's a high-quality thing. I think that you and I think that we have good chemistry. I think that the stuff we talk about is relevant. I think that we have good insights. Like, I think it's a high-quality podcast. And the feedback we get from people is generally positive. So I want to try to grow it, and I'm not doing enough on myself to try to broaden that. So I would say, like, my only ask or, like, curiosity is if you are listening to this podcast and you listen to a lot of podcasts, like, have you noticed anything in your other podcasts that are very popular? Or, like, do you have any ideas for me? Like, I'm not trying to advocate responsibility or, like, hey, listeners, help me grow the podcast by liking and sharing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that desperate. But maybe just to get my creative juices flowing, to think a little bit more outside of the box on what I can do to grow this. Because I love doing it. And I have fallen off really hard writing on my website because of the podcast, which tells me I enjoy the podcast more than I do the writing.
Right.
So I would like to continue doing this, and I'm not saying that we're going to quit, but I would like to do it knowing that it's growing. We went through a period of pretty good growth a couple of months ago, where, like, we were getting a couple of new listeners. Like, I would notice, like, every episode, like, oh, I have a download on all of our old episodes, which is cool, because that's, like, a new person discovered it, and they like it enough to listen to all the old shit, too. Which I probably wouldn't do if I was a listener, but thank you for doing that. And then that just hasn't happened as much the past month or two. So, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with it, if, like, maybe my show titles are not as attention-grabbing as they have been in the past. I don't know the reason. It just hasn't been growing as steadily as it had been before. I want it to continue because I like doing it.
Yeah, I'm also really disappointed with the amount of work that you put into the podcast.
You're the worst. You are the worst.
I sit down at my computer 20 minutes before we record. I type a couple things into the document. I look through what you put, and then I just do the thing. My input is so minimal.
And you're not even because you're not on social media. Like, no. You're not even sharing it. You are useless.
I'm so useless.
One of the things that I thought about that I actually think would be good for the podcast, and I almost hesitate to even bring it up because I don't want to open a can of worms, but I feel like we would benefit from a third co-host. I just think that it being just the two of us limits, one, the amount of discussion we can get into because it's only two perspectives.
Yeah.
And also, like, if I am playing a game that you are not playing, that limits what we can talk about. But with a third person, there's more likelihood that we are both playing or watching similar things. And just, I think, opens up more perspectives. I also think that while you and I are definitely different in a lot of ways in our, like, personalities and our, like, approaches and you know, opinions on things, we are very similar in a lot of ways too. And I think that adding a third person, and it wouldn't be a sibling because we don't have another one, would be good just because it's a very different perspective. So I will qualify and say this is not an open call.
No.
Don't send me a submission to be another podcast. Like, it would have to be a perfect circumstance of someone we both know and we've done stuff with in the past and know that it would gel well for the long term and that they would be committed to doing it for the long term. Because I'm not like,
nothing springs to mind. Like, nobody springs to mind. Like,
and that's why we haven't done it, is because we don't have a person that would be a perfect fit for that.
Right.
So, I have had multiple people reach out and say, hey, I would love to join you guys.
Yeah.
And love that people are interested in it. And I'm not saying no, that we would never do, like, a guest host for an episode. But, like, committing to adding a third co-host without knowing if it's going to work is a really good way of alienating your audience.
Right.
And, like, screwing it up, you know? Because some people are super engaged, which is great, and other people are a little more fickle, a little more casual, and that's totally fine too. I'm not placing any, like, judgment on that or saying that, like, I like my hardcore listeners more than I like my casual listeners, because anyone that listens to the podcast, I appreciate. But if someone listens to an episode where we have a guest host, that if our chemistry is off that episode, if they don't like what that person brings to the table, they may say, like, all right, well, I'm not going to come back to this. Or, God forbid, a new listener listens to that one for the first time, and they say, oh, I don't like this chemistry. Right. I'm not going to listen to the other. Like, there are a lot of ways it could go wrong.
Yeah.
So, like I said, almost didn't want to ever talk about that because I didn't want to, like, have a bunch of people, again, reach out to me. But hopefully, like, contextually that makes sense to folks. I do think that in a perfect world, if we had the perfect person, I would love to add a third co-host.
Three's company,
we just don't have that person right now. So, yeah. Because I've even thought of, like, what if Kelly joined us, or what if Kara joined us? But they're so different in a lot of ways that...
Well, yeah, and, like, well,
it would
they don't
broaden
value
stuff
the
too
same
much.
things that you and I do, so, like, they're not going to be able to contribute to a lot of the same discussions, which there's
Yes.
value in having new discussions, but, like, we also would want someone who can contribute to our existing types of discussions.
Totally. Yeah. So that's that. It's mostly just a frustration. I need to work harder on the podcast, and I'm getting annoyed at myself for not doing that. So, want to, like, put it out into the world to hopefully keep myself a little bit more, put some pressure on myself to say, like, hey, other people know I feel this way, so now I need to do something more about it.
Right.
So that's that. So, moving on.
Oh, real quick before we get to emails.
Yes.
I know this podcast's going to run long, but while we were talking earlier, I looked down at my hands, and I just realized, and, like, my arms and stuff, and just, like, my skin, like, it's not smoothing out like it used to. Like, I'm getting, like, a lot of the crinkle wrinkles that stay for longer, and just, I look down at my hands, and I feel like I'm getting old. Do you ever have that moment where, like, you look down at your hands, you're like, my hands look a lot older?
Not specifically hands. For me, it's more so, like, I get random pains all the time.
Oh, well, for sure.
Like, that I didn't used to get.
Yeah.
And that's just my body. Like, I mean, I'm 31. Like, I'm getting to the point where, like, shit's gonna break, you know? Like, I borrowed my father-in-law's lawnmower the other day, and Kelly's gonna go return it, and so I loaded it into her trunk, and, like, I lifted it up, and when I put it in the trunk, I had this, like, really sharp pain, like, in my, like, upper back that I had, like, pinched a nerve or pulled something.
I get that a lot.
And, like, I just, like, I mean, the lawnmower is heavy, but it's not that heavy. And it's just because I'm fucking old and out of shape. And it just was one of those, I was like, oh, God, great. Now I'm going to have pain in my shoulder for the next week. Like, hooray. So, yes, that happens to me all the time.
If you ever look down at your hands and feel old, write in. Sound off in the comments of the YouTube video.
Tell us how old you feel. So, yeah.
See, I'm doing work. Engagement, Shay. That's what it's all about.
Right, engagement. No, and that, again, that is something I love. We have several people that listen to the podcast that are super engaged. Steve writes in a lot. Our buddy Rod, who left a comment on YouTube, he writes in a lot. Aaron writes in a lot. We have a user or a listener from Atlanta that I don't know, whose name is Adam, who's written in a couple of emails. He might not listen to the podcast anymore because we haven't heard from him in a while. But Adam, if you're still there, let us know. So speaking of Rod, left a comment on the YouTube video of our previous upload. This is more of a correction, I guess you could say. So Rod said that he loves... Because I was talking about watching Harry Potter. Oh, which I forgot to mention. I watched Prisoner of Azkaban yesterday with Penny. That movie is delightfully weird. It is so different from all the other Harry Potter movies. Oh, yeah. It is very... It's so stupid, but in a fun way.
Well, they had a new director then, right?
Yes, Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
The first two movies were Christopher Columbus, then Alfonso Cuarón, then a dude who fucked up royally with Goblet of Fire, and then I think David Yates directed 5, 6, and both of the 7.
Okay.
7 and 8, right? I think that's how the process went. But anyway, Rod wrote in because I was complaining a little bit about Chamber of Secrets and said that it was one of my least favorite movies because it was also my least favorite book. Rod saying that he's like, hey, I grew up on Chamber of Secrets. I love that movie. So I just wanted to take a quick clarification. I like all of the Harry Potter movies. The fourth one is the worst. It is my favorite of the books, and therefore I was most disappointed with, like, because it is, I think, the second longest book or maybe the third longest book, and it is the shortest movie. So that is obvious. They cut out tons of shit from that movie, which is mostly why I found it disappointing. But I still love it. I'm going to watch it. I guess not next weekend because you and Dad are visiting, but the weekend after when I have Penny, I'm going to watch Goblet of Fire. And I'm really excited about it. So I want to clarify that I like all of the Harry Potter movies, but some of them I have to like the least. That's how these things work. So Rod, don't take it personally. I'm not trying to shit on Chamber of Secrets. It's just my second least favorite of the Harry Potter movies, all of which I love. If you want to read more about how I feel about the Harry Potter movies and books, I have rankings for all of them on SheaHatesEverything.com. There, I'm pitching stuff.
Good plug.
Check out my website. Also, he left a comment suggesting, because we also talked about, hey, what are video games that would make good television shows, etc. He said he would love to see a Fallout television miniseries in the vein of a existing YouTube series called Nuka Break, which I saw the original little video that I think Rocket Jump did or someone did that was just like a little vignette of a fight of two characters in Fallout universe. But I guess they made like a big YouTube series, which I meant to check out and I wasn't able to because it's like an actual like long miniseries.
Okay.
But it's just like a bunch of random stories and stuff that take place in the Fallout universe.
I've
which
not seen
I know
that. I need to watch that now.
People really like it. The production value is fairly high for being a fan-made thing. So yeah, I certainly Fallout would make for a really good television show in sort of an anthology kind of a thing, just because it's such a broad universe. You can tell a lot of one-off stories in that universe. So yeah. Good idea, Rod. And we got an email from Steve. Steve writes, Shane Kyle, with Mario Maker 2 now out for a bit, the creative juices have been flowing this summer. What are some video game creative projects that Kyle or yourself have created that you are still proud of to this day? Did you work on any together that you are still proud of? This can include games such as Little Big Planet, Minecraft, RPG Maker, Mario Maker, etc. Thanks for the content, Steve in DC. So yeah, he also has a PS, but we'll address that later. I do want to say a quick thing. We talked about Mario Maker 2 last episode. Kyle, you plugged your creator ID.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you have a creator ID, like Steve, if you're making levels in Mario Maker 2, send in your creator ID. We'll share it on the podcast so other people can check out your levels. Certainly want to do that. I love seeing different creative ways that people are doing stuff. So send those in.
Yeah.
Specific to the question about, like, have we made stuff? I guess you and I together, we've played a lot of Minecraft together. We had, when we were both doing YouTube channel stuff, we started a world that we wanted to make this underground dwarven city.
Which Build Bros.
Rodrigator
knows. Rodrigator was a subscriber of mine. Okay, speaking. All right, I do just want to say, Rod, since now that I know you're listening,
because you're not on social media.
Right.
Rod engages on Twitter with me a lot.
Right.
He likes the tweets about the podcast. You're the one, you abandoned Rod. Don't think that Rod abandoned us.
First off, I'm sorry I abandoned you. Second off, I love you deeply, and I miss you. And that picture that you drew of me in a Fallout Vault Boy style, yep. I still use that as profile pictures on most of, if not all of my things. Because it's one of my favorite things anybody has ever made me, and it's awesome. Also, yeah, Build Bros. So I've been going back through and watching all of my old YouTube stuff because I like to punish myself.
Right.
And, well, because currently it's all unlisted because I have students who could come across it, and I don't want them to because some of it's inappropriate. So it's all unlisted, so unfortunately you can't, like, go watch it unless I were to, like, send you a link or something, but I've been going back and rewatching it. I did rewatch Build Bros, and like that entrance tunnel and the bridge that we made was awesome. And I'm trying to remember what happened to where we stopped. I think something happened to the world file.
The world got deleted.
Yeah,
and we didn't have a backup.
Yeah,
so that ended up being the end. I think we only did 3 episodes. Yeah, and I think I did a solo episode, which was I made a tree. It's like a 40-minute video because one of the things that I loved about BOO was he talked a lot about his process,
and he would show the process.
His decision making, but he did a lot of fast forwarding, a lot of like montaging, which I think I did a little bit of in that video too.
Okay.
But the whole goal was I want to make this giant tree and like make it really intricate, and I want to talk about my placement. And I'm sure I talked about and rambled about random shit because I always do. But yeah, and I know like the first episode we did the entrance, and then we also did the big bridge over this like big cavern
with like
that
the
I thought was really
hanging
awesome
in the dark and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And I know you've had a lot of popular series and videos. I think that series is my most watched stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like because I mean my channel never got as big as yours because you had one Minecraft Let's Play you did that went.
Slender and Ender has like 60,000 views on it. The first episode does. It's something ridiculous.
I'm trying to find what playlist because I want to see what it is. Oh, maybe is it in random Minecraft series? I'm trying to look in my like playlists.
Because you and I did a lot of like server Let's Play stuff. Sorry, this is kind of devolving into something not related to the email, but
Build Bros. Yeah, I have almost 5,000 views on that video.
Wow.
It's my most watched video.
Nice.
Fucking Build Bros. Hell yeah. Build Bros.
I loved my intro for that series. It's just like fun, jaunty music, and I build the words Build Bros out of gold blocks. And it's just fun and nice.
Fun stuff. So definitely that, it was a bummer that it quit, or that the server got crashed or whatever, and we lost everything. Because that was a lot of fun, and I thought we were doing really cool build stuff in it. There's been a bunch of Minecraft projects. I'm not as big on creating things, to be honest. I more enjoy playing other people's creations. But I know, like, you used to be hardcore into RPG Maker, too.
Yeah. So, one of my friends and I, we've made several RPGs in RPG Maker 3 on the PlayStation 2. We spent a lot of time in those games. Because we would have like a half an hour long cutscene that we storyboarded with their like little text thing, and we would type it in with like we plugged in the USB keyboard to our PlayStation 2 so we could type faster and all this stuff. I remember staying up late nights building stuff with him, and then like Cody and I like building all of our crazy Minecraft stuff. Like for a while, Cody had a Potato Craft server because his Minecraft name was Ambient Potato. So we had a Potato Craft server that a bunch of people were on, like stuff, like people that were like subscribers of mine or subscribers of his on YouTube could like play with us on the server. And we've just built some really awesome stuff. Like there's a whole town where people have shops. We had this mini game called Snowball Fight that we built this whole icy arena that looked really awesome. There was a lot of like really great builds. And then just like semi-recently when I got Minecraft Realms and Cody and I were on there, we were starting to build a city. And like I'm like 10% done with the city, but what I have I really like, and I think it looks really good. But I don't know. I very much enjoy building in Minecraft, especially. I feel like I tried to make a couple levels in like Little Big Planet, the first one. I remember like one of the things I will always remember, the community level I played in the first Little Big Planet was a Dead Space inspired level. With like monsters crashing through the wall, and like you look like a little Dead Space dude in the suit, and it was really really cool, and it like really blew me away. And it was like, what, like this is the kind of stuff you can create in Little Big Planet. This is amazing, and I just never really got there myself. I never got familiar enough with the tools. But yeah, I mean, like if I'm gonna make something creative, my go-to is usually just Minecraft. I've made so much crap over the years in that game, stuff that I'm proud of and stuff that looks like hot garbage.
Yeah.
You're only half listening because you're probably watching your Build Bros episode.
I'm not watching it. I'm looking actually through old comments because I know like Rod had commented on some of these old videos and stuff, so I was just looking at it. But I was listening. Give me some credit. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I don't build a ton of stuff. That's just not. I always find myself. I get stuck in my head with ideas, and then I'm not as able to execute on them like as I want.
Okay.
My ideas are always bigger than what I can execute, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And especially in Minecraft, because it's so open-ended, like there are so many things that you can build, I'm just not... I lose myself. I'm trying to think of like what else in Minecraft I built. I know we did a series... I'm not going to remember what it is. Attack of the B-Team.
Yeah.
With that Beta Below engineer
man, I made the
a
Haunted
mod pack.
Mansion and like the secret underground laboratory.
I built a couple of things. I'm trying to think.
That Haunted Mansion looked really good from the outside. We just never really
Sorcerer's Tower. I started to construct, and I think that was the last episode I uploaded of that series because I again just got overwhelmed and had too many things to do, so I just kind of quit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not as much of a creator as I am a player of other people's creations. So Steve also says, P.S. I found a show that lasts for 6 seasons that has a good ending. FX's The Americans. I highly recommend it and would love to know your thoughts on it if you've seen it. So this is in relation to, I think a couple episodes ago, it was when we were talking about Game of Thrones. I kind of made a comment of shows that go past 5 seasons usually fail in those last seasons because they run out of creative ideas. So perfect example. I have not seen The Americans. I know people are obsessed with that show and think it has a really great ending. So example of a show that did go beyond 5 seasons that did it successfully. I've always intended to watch it and just have never gotten. It's one of those shows that I just never got around to. There was another one. I don't remember what network it was on. Maybe Showtime. That was about. It had the main dude from Band of Brothers, the redheaded guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was like a soldier, and it's like a big mystery of is he actually a bad guy? Damn, I don't remember what that show was called. But I watched the first couple episodes and then fell off. It's one of the shows that's like The Americans, where it's a very realistic drama that I needed to be in the right mood for in order to get invested, and I just have never found myself willing to invest that amount of time to it.
Okay.
So, as always, Rod and Steve, thank you for your emails and your comments. If you, other folks, want to write in, give us feedback, ask a question, you can send us an email to info@sheahateseverything.com. You can tweet at me, @Shea_Castle. You can comment, and message on our Facebook page, /Shea Hates Everything. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel called Shea Hates Everything. You can leave us a review on iTunes. I'm sure there are other ways that you can connect that I'm not thinking of. But that's a lot, so do those things. If you don't want to be lazy, come on, guys. Let's not be lazy here. Listeners of the podcast, do our work for us. Hey, man, if you write us emails, leave us comments, that's just more shit for us to talk about. Isn't that what we're all looking for? More amazing content from the Shea Hates Everything podcast?
That is synergy.
There you go. Bring it all together. So let's end with something that we don't hate. This is a weird one. I was honestly struggling to find one that I didn't hate this morning, just because I have a lot of yard work upcoming today, and then I go back to work tomorrow, and so it's hard to here's a thing I love. But the thing I don't hate is Publix Chunky Chicken Salad.
All right.
It's delicious.
That sounds good.
I did not used to like chicken salad because I don't like mayonnaise. Oh. But their Publix Chunky Chicken Salad is delicious. On a croissant, on just a slice of honey wheat. Whatever way you want to eat it, with a spoon, delish.
Yeah, chicken salad is one of my all-time favorite foods.
But it has to be the right chicken salad. I don't like it really smooth. I like it chunky.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
With carrots and stuff in it.
Have a bunch of stuff in it. Yes. I don't hate my friend's pig roast, which was this weekend. He stays up.
Sounds sexual.
Oh, yeah. He stays up all night. He invites his whole neighborhood and then all of his friends, and we all go over there. And he stays up the whole night tending the pig over the fire, over the pit, and then the next day he takes the entire pig apart, just fills these bins with pulled pork, and then he makes his own barbecue sauce, and everyone else brings potato salad, pasta salad, veggie tray, fruit tray, that kind of stuff, and then a bunch of soda and drinks, and a couple of his friends brew their own beer, so they bring that. Stuff like that. Yeah. It's always a big thing. They do it every year. That was this weekend, and that was awesome. I had an amazing pulled pork sandwich with some really great sweet barbecue sauce that he made, and it was fantastic.
That sounds better than pre-packaged Publix brand chunky chicken salad.
But both
as
good.
Delicious as it is.
Both good.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Shea Hates Everything podcast, episode 55. Thanks everybody for listening, and Steve and Rod for writing in.
Don't forget to write in about your old people hands.
Yeah, that too.
I gotta know.
Or just write in about how you feel old and shitty. Let's all just commiserate together on how life is just the absolute worst.
Shea Hates Everything episode 56, old and shitty.
Every day is worse than the previous day. But hey, the good news is eventually we die.
Tell me about it.
And let's end on that note. So thanks guys for listening. and we will see you in the next one. Peace out.